Tonight, Grand Prix Speedway comes to Britain for the crucial fourth round clash, and with just 3 rounds left, it's make or break for the men in contention here in Coventry. But can anyone stop Poland's Dark Destroyer, Thomas Golub? Having won 2 of the 3 Grand Prix, he's already laid his claim to the title and continues to carry an aura of invincibility. Welcome to a balmy evening at Brandon. We're at Coventry for the British Grand Prix. It's round 4 of the championship. We're bringing all of it live here on Sky Sports. A crucial round for many of the contenders tonight. And a warm welcome to you. We are high above the first corner, right where we need to be. A fantastic atmosphere. Over 7,500 we've heard in the crowd to see this one. Sam Ermolenko is going to enjoy it with me. We've also got Kelvin Tatum right down in the pits as well. Looking forward to this?
Yeah, it's definitely a warm night, and so far so good. I mean, the racing's starting off really hot.
Well, a lot of talk at the moment in this crowd about who's going to win the World Championship, and it's close at the moment, but so far it's been dominated by one man, Thomas Golub. He has a 65-point lead, but it's only just 9 ahead of Jimmy Nielsen of Sweden. Tony Rickardsson, the current world champion, he's in 3rd place with 41. Stefan Dano's up there. Jason Crump, a lot of people will be watching him. He's already won the British Grand Prix twice. He's in 5th place. Anton Kasper's up there. Joe Screen is Britain's top man at the moment. He's in 7th place. And Greg Hancock rides here all the time, wants to do well here. He's in 8th. A little further down, a lot of eyes on Mark Laram, another wildcard entry. He's already won 1 Grand Prix, though, and has been one of the top riders in the British Elite League this year. No question about it. A lot of action. We're already underway, and we've already had some great action. But let's take a look at what happened in the first 2 heats. Well, Greg Hancock bounced out of the gate as we expected, but it is his home track. We expect him to do well here.
He does this every week here. He had gate 2 with the blue helmet color there, and he made the start just like he would if it was a normal league race, and he basically got control of the race from the word go, and it worked out for him, and he won the race. Mark Laram was on the outside here. He really didn't have much room out there. John Jurgensen followed Greg for 2nd place until he had an engine failure in the turn 3, I think the 2nd to the last lap, which gave Mark Laram the 2nd position.
Well, those are the first 2 heats underway. You also got a glimpse there that Scott Nichols is riding. We're all looking forward to him, the youngster from Britain. He was 2nd in the first heat. Well, we're just about to get underway for the 3rd heat, so let's get down to our commentary team once again, Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
I have to tell you, Peter and I in the hottest commentary box you've ever known, but the racing, as the lads said, hot early on with heat number 1, won by Greg Hancock on his home track ahead of Scott Nichols, 3rd place Michael Carlson, and 4th was Robert Danos from Poland. Heat number 2, a good performance by Mark Laram in 2nd place behind Lee Adams, and Tony Kasper and Jon Jorgensen, who had an engine failure, will have to try again. But heat number 3 now will sort out the sheep from the goats. Remember, they slot into places all over the place, and Henrik Gustafsson goes in red on the inside for heat number 3 from Sweden. Chris Louis, Britain's hope in the blue in gate number 2. That man in yellow and black there, Andy Smith, another Brit, 3 times British champion, actually riding on this track. And Billy Hamill, the remaining rider in the white helmet colours, also on his home track. But Peter Collins alongside me. Andy Smith expected to do well here at Coventry.
Well, Andy's had some great meetings over the years here. He won the British Championship back-to-back 3 years on the run in the early 90s. He did ride for Coventry for a while. He is a specialist here, but of course Billy Hamill's also out there. And there's Chris Louis in the blue. He's actually very, very good. He's won the British Championship last year here, and it's certainly a favourite for the English boys as well, being here on their own doorstep, Tony.
Well, Billy Hamill there, we see, I can tell you, he has 2 machines in the pits, one with a GM motor, one with the Jawa, but he's on the GM. He says he's been riding Java in recent weeks, but decided to go back to the GM tonight.
Yeah, he's a bit lost at the moment with his equipment. He's come back riding for Coventry recently, and he's got bike problems at the moment because he doesn't know what to ride.
There's the lineup. Henrik Gustafsson on the inside, Chris Louis in blue. Billy Hamill goes in white from gate 3 on his home league track. And Andy Smith, 3 times British champion here on this track, he goes from the outside. That's the lineup. This is heat number 3. The action in front of nearly 10,000 fans in this packed Brandon Stadium. But this one is going to be tight. There's real problems here now, and the machine going back, that is Billy Hamill, and Billy Hamill is expected to get a second machine here. He's already got early problems, and certainly it's going to provide problems. Look, they're helping him here. They know the gate's here. They know how to get him on the track quickly, and his pit staff includes Shane Parker, an Australian international rider, of course, helping him. But this is Billy Hamill, and he's on his second machine already, PC. That'll cause him problems.
Well, we did say that Billy was having problems with his machinery, and of course he goes round to the start there, and either one bike stops, he's certainly not happy with it, so he's actually he's heading back towards the pits again, so he's really got problems.
Well, I don't know what we have. The referee will have him on 2 minutes now, Billy Hamill, and that's real problems for the man who's a permanent wild card, of course, in the Grand Prix series, and now he's got 2 bikes on the way back to pits. So the riders lining up here now. It looks as if Billy Hamill could miss the start of this and he is excluded, Billy Hamill. The referee has excluded Billy Hamill under the 2-minute warning. The controversial Hungarian referee is Istvan Drago, and already Hamill missing this one. But away we go with 3 riders in heat number 3. On the inside, Henrik Gustafsson. He's in red, but coming round at pace on the outside. Andy Smith picks it up. Good for the Brits here for Andy down the back straight. Back in 3rd place, Chris Louis. Louis having a go to by Gustafsson as well. Great ride by Chris Louis. Look, and it's Brits 1 and 2, PC.
Yeah, it is. We said Andy likes Coventry, and he's certainly proving us right here. And Chris Louis tucks in right behind him. Andy's not riding wide enough at the moment because Chris is really having a good go around that inside. But now Gustafsson there in the red doing the big blast around the outside.
Gustafsson spotted that Grip is on the outside as well, but Andy Smith on the inside is holding his line fast. Gustafsson's gone too wide now. Chris Louis in 2nd place. This is going to be Britain 1 and 2. This is a tremendous effort here with a lap to go. Andy Smith, 3 times a British champion here on the final lap ahead of Chris Louis. And this is great for Britain because already we've had a 2nd place for Mark Laram, a 2nd place for Scott Nicholls, and now we've got the other 2 Brits packing 1st and 2nd here. A great night. Andy Smith the win in yellow. In blue, Chris Louis in 2nd place. Henrik Gustafsson in red in 3rd place. That really was a tremendous ride for the 2 Brits, and none better than that man, Andy Smith. We've often talked about him as the Houdini. He's won that one. It's Britain 1 and 2. Andy Smith and Chris Louis. In 3rd place, Henrik Gustafsson. Billy Hamill excluded, will have to ride again, but from the start it was important. Andy did well, Chris Louis did well.
That's Chris Louis in the blue helmet. Gustafsson's on the inside, but straight into the picture from the outside comes Andy Smith. I think it helped Andy that Billy Hamill wasn't next to him on the start line there, gave him more room on the starting gate to make that first turn manoeuvre, and Andy certainly cashed in on that one. He made a great run round the outside on the first turn. The track's a little wet and slippery right now. It's so hot at the moment that they've put that much water down on the track, but the track seems to be pretty good at the moment, and Andy's riding a great ride here. He's covering that lead, and he did great to stay there in that 1st place ahead of Chris Louis.
Well, a marvellous performance by the Brits in that one, but Heat 2 was won by an Australian, Lee Adams, and he's in the pits with our reporter, Kelvin Tatum.
Okay, you're joining me down in the pits with Lee Adams, and it's Lee, you had a superb ride in your first ride, came out of gate 2, seemed to work really well.
Yeah, I was really happy, you know. When I got here, gate 1 looked very nice, but I managed to get over Tony Casper, and I had a pretty good run out of the first corner, and just went from there, but it looks like the dirt's going to move out a little bit. Andy made a good one off 4 and pretty much chased the dirt around, so I think by the end of the meeting we're going to be running pretty high.
Right, so but you must have been very happy to have popped out and start in the Grand Prix and settled your nerves down.
Yeah, it's always nice to get the first one out of the way, and you know, to come out with a win, it's good. You get gate 1 in your next ride and just go from there, and you know, the big aim is get through to the main meeting and take it as it comes.
All right, but as you said, you know, gate 1 in the next ride, do you think that's going to be slightly tricky with the dirt moving up?
Well, not really. I think gate 1's fairly grippy, so if I can come out fairly clean, I can get into the dirt and pretty much run off the turn, I hope.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks very much, Lee. Back over to Peter and Tony, I believe.
Well, I can tell you, Kelvin's talking to Lee Adams, and he'll be meeting Scott Nicholls and Chris Louis as 2 British riders in heat number 8 in his next outing, and they'll be going from the wide gates, Lee Adams on the inside. But now we move on to heat number 4. Disappointment, of course, in that one for Billy Hamill. Heat number 4 there in the blue helmet colours. That's Peter Carlson, the second of the Carlson brothers. He, of course, rides in Britain for Wolverhampton, the old Swedish colours on the mudguard there. There he is coming up to Tates. We just saw fading from picture in white Brian Anderson, the Coventry captain, who also rides regularly on this track in his league action. The man in the red helmet colours on the inside is the Dane Brian Carger. Brian Anderson coming up to Tates. Peter Carlson already there in gate number 2. And we are without, of course, a rider here. Just 3 riders taking part in this because Mario Giroux was out in practice having hurt his leg. He was hospitalised last night, stitches, ligaments at the back of his knee, a horrendous crash in practice for that, Peter, which ensures him, though, of 24th place tonight and money.
Yeah, I think it was the primary chain that did all the damage. I think he broke a primary chain, and that's what cut the calf muscle, and you know, he's certainly not able to ride today, Tony, that's for sure.
Heat number 4 shows Brian Carger on the inside. Peter Carlson goes from gate 2. Brian Anderson, the Dane, from gate 3. 2 Danes and a Swede, just 3 riders. Remember, Giroux qualifies for last place. On the inside in red, there is Brian Carger. Going around and picking it up on the outside, Brian Anderson tracking him. On the inside in blue is Peter Carlson. It's close in 2nd and 3rd place, but the man in front there is Brian Carger. He's hugging the racing line, which seems to move wider and wider already, and that inside gate may have helped him from the start, but the racing line's not there, and Carger's picking up that line. Yeah,
Carger's flying, really, and Peter Carlson's tucked in behind him, but the surprise is Brian Anderson, the home rider here at Coventry. He's struggling there in 3rd place, and he doesn't look as though he's going to catch these 2.
Well, disappointment there because he started so well, but the rider in front, Brian Carger, is getting his wheels in line. He's picking the part of the track he wants, and he's riding almost wheel perfect there with a lap and a quarter to go. Ahead of the man in 2nd place, Peter Carlson. These 2 will march on. Brian Anderson will have to battle again. Remember, if you have a 2nd or 3rd and 4th place 2 heats in a row, then you're eliminated. But here now is this end of heat number 4. This is going to be won comfortably by Brian Carger in red. 2nd place in blue is Peter Carlson. 3rd in white there is Brian Anderson. Disappointment for the home track rider, but triumph for this man, Brian Carger from Denmark. And Brian Carger knew exactly what he wanted to do there. And the young man from Horsands in Denmark, I say young, he's 32 years old, and one of the older riders in the field, has won that ahead of Peter Carlson and Brian Anderson. Remember, Mario Giroux missing from there, but from the gate it was important, and on the inside it was picked up well by Brian Carger. Yeah, that's Brian Anderson on the outside, Tony. I'd really expected more from Brian. He's on the outside there. He's actually in the dirt going into the corner. Now, that's the fast line on the outside, but he doesn't seem to use that to the full advantage, because on the inside, Brian Carger's made a very determined first turn. He's riding very, very well, riding mid-track. Peter Carlson's trying along the inside line, but there, Brian Carger's got a great run now down the outside, and when riders make a start like this round Coventry, very difficult to overtake, but it was a brilliant ride from Carger. A brilliant ride from Carger, no real surprises so far, but disappointment for Billy Hamill, of course, in Heat 3. Plenty more action coming from Brandon Stadium here at Coventry in the British Speedway Grand Prix. Only 4 heats have gone. There are 20 more to come. More after the break.
Full speed ahead. The football season begins again. Sunday, it's down to Wembley. The 1-1 FA Charity Shield. Arsenal v Manchester United.
Which way is this one going to go? It doesn't get any bigger than this.
Then,
hold on tight
as we head up to Scotland for the new season. A football double, Sunday from 2, exclusively live, Sky Sports.
This is one ride you can't get off.
The unstoppable Nissan Terrano 2. If there's a car thief in one, he's probably been arrested.
How can we live together in peace and harmony? Simple. Get a second line. That way you don't have to wait for someone to finish their call when you want to send a fax or use the internet. And right now you can get 60 minutes of free local weekend calls every week for a year. If you'd like a second line and free calls, ring us now on 0800 800 845.
Welcome back to Coventry. These the scenes from the pits at the moment. Live all night here for the Grand Prix action. And so far, the meeting has been fast and furious, but it's exactly what we expected. And Sam Ermolenko, finally, we had to rush on there because obviously we were already under action. We've got a chance to talk to you now. An exciting meeting for many, many reasons, not only the fact that everybody's chasing Thomas Golub.
Yeah, I mean, it's real important for the bottom half of the guys just to stay in this meeting and stay in the top 8, because if you're out of the top 8, then you have to go to the challenge, and that's a tough battle. I've been there before, and that's why I'm still not in the Grand Prix. But, you know, a lot of the guys, they're you know, every point counts out there right now. This is the first round of the second half of the Grand Prix. It's real important that the guys do well.
Which rider does this particular track, I mean, obviously we've got the likes of Hancock and Hamill who ride here every week, but I've heard that Golub is not necessarily a favourite for this particular, because he's not that good at this track.
I mean, most of the continental tracks are much larger tracks, a lot more dirt, and there's a lot more space to really race for it. I mean, Thomas proved it when he rode at Wrocław at the last GP to be able to pass Jimmy in the last corner. This track will probably give some of those guys those advantages only if guys make mistakes, because it's such a tight track. I mean, this is going to probably favor the guys like Jimmy Nielsen, Jason Crump, Greg Hancock, because it's his home track. I mean, there's going to be a couple of guys like Brian Anderson who had a bad race, but it's going to happen because the gates are going to have a lot to do with how they finish the race.
Well, let's go back to Billy Hamill. I mentioned him earlier, but that's the big story already. I mean, at the beginning of the evening, here he is trying to, you know, get into his heat, which was actually Heat 3. He tried to get into Heat 3. Had trouble with his bike.
Yeah, I think at this stage, the way the new rules are, I mean, you have 2 minutes once you leave the pit gate, and he was probably already past the 2 minutes and realized it when they made the effort to bring in the bike out to him, the shortest way to get to the starting line, and he was signaled straight off the racetrack. So unfortunate for Billy, because I mean, his heart's in it. He's got to do well. This is his home track. You know, he feels disappointed probably for the fans and his team and everybody.
Well, unlike Billy at all, I've heard he's not even talking to us. He won't talk to Kelvin, which is, you know, most unheard of.
Yeah.
He's 21st in the championship. This is a disastrous year for him.
I mean, he's just going to have to start all over. He's going to have to go to that challenge now and keep his head up and hopefully make something out of that and get back in it next year.
Yeah, well, we hope so. Well, they're lining up for Heat 5 now, so let's get down to our commentary commentary team once again of Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
This is heat number 5. Just 3 riders in this, of course, because the absent Mario Yeru assured of 24th place, and it leaves just 3 riders in this. Yeru would have been going in yellow on the outside. In the inside, it's Michael Carlson in red from Sweden. Henrik Gustafsson, fellow Swede, goes from gate 2. John Jorgensen, who used to ride a lot here for Coventry, somewhat surprisingly had a problem. His first ride goes from gate 3. Remember, the last man, it would normally be the last 2, the last man is eliminated from this event. He will take just 1 Grand Prix point, and well, the last man, he will actually get 2 Grand Prix points, because Yeru gets 1 Grand Prix point. The others 2 will march on to the next stage. Away we go now. We look on the inside there in red, and picking it up is Michael Carlson, going slightly wider, and Jon Jorgensen is using his track expertise, but now he's blocked out. He's hit the fence at the back, and it looks as though the Dane Jon Jorgensen will fade away from this to leave the 2 Swedes, Gustafsson in the blue helmet colours, Michael Carlson in red, to follow their way round and move on to the next stage of this Grand Prix. But disappointment for Jorgensen at the back. No such problems out front for the 2 Swedes.
No, Henrik Gustafsson's riding very, very confidently here. He's very, very hard on that first turn with Jon Jorgensen. John sort of ran out of track, and Henke helped him on his way there, gave him a bit of a shove, but Henke's really riding well. He's got to be determined, because in the past he's not really put everything together in the Grand Prix, but now he's coming under some pressure from fellow countryman Michael Carlson.
Henrik Gustafsson looking sure out front in this one, rather better than his golf was this morning, I can tell you, down the road. But out front, Henrik Gustafsson will win this in blue, ahead of Michael Carlson. The 2 Swedes will march on, and the first man to go out tonight will be Jon Jorgensen, the Dane, who used to ride here for Coventry. Real disappointment for him, and Jon Jorgensen can go home with just 2 Grand Prix points to his name as the 3rd rider in heat number 5, and that is desperately disappointing for the Dane. But, well, glory for Henrik Gustafsson. He marches on. His chances increase again. Gustafsson the winner, ahead of Michael Carlson. The 2 Swedes continue in this Grand Prix. Jon Jorgensen goes out. And from the start, well, it was vital. Jorgensen taken wide and really didn't enjoy it.
That's right, Jorgensen on the outside there in the white helmet. You can see he makes a pretty good start, but Henrik Gustafsson is right with him as they go into that first turn. Now it looks as though Gustafsson's Jorgensen is leading this race, but Gustafsson's riding that inside run there, and you see now he takes the line away totally from Jon Jorgensen, takes Jorgensen's front wheel away. John goes off towards the fence, and unfortunately for him, that position is the end of his meeting, because he's back to the changing rooms. And Gustafsson and Michael Carlson made a great race there together for those 2 qualifying positions.
Well, from then on, as you say, it was the losers' heat. Heat 6 coming up now is also a losers' heat. It was tough there for John Jorgensen as he went into the fence, and from there on, really, he had nowhere to go and nothing to do, and real disappointment for the Dane. He can go home with 2 Grand Prix points to his name, and for John Jorgensen, really, that desperately disappointing. He was 12th in the standings with 25 Grand Prix points. That now gives him 27. But as we move on now to heat number 6, this again, a losers' heat. We see in the blue helmet colours there, Brian Anderson at the front of your camera. On the inside in red is Tony Casper. That man in yellow in the background, Billy Hamill, who had such disappointment, number 22. And the rider with number 14 there on his bike who also joins in this one is Brian Anderson. The rider in red there is Tony Casper. That man in blue, Brian Anderson. Anderson disappointing last time, the Coventry captain. More familiar with the track, of course. Why is it here? We've got a couple of Coventry riders in this heat, Peter, and so they would be expected to do well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, this track's very familiar to just about everybody here. I mean, most of the riders in this sort of match actually ride in the Elite League, and Coventry's well up there, and they're regularly on this track, so it's basically a track that they all know, so anybody could win here.
Tony Casper on the inside of Brian Anderson, gate 2. Robert Daddas the pole. Disappointing first time out, goes from gate 3. And Billy Hamill, who suffered that machine problem and missed the 2 minutes, was unable to keep, but it's desperate for Billy Hamill to get in the first 2 in this one if he's going to march on. You just see the opportunity. Tony Casper, of course, on continental tracks looks a different rider from what he does on British tracks, and he's on the inside, perhaps a shade tight for him. The starting marshal moves away. Up go the tapes, but Casper picks it up. A little bit of jousting there between the rider in white, Daddos, and Billy Hamill. Hamill's left at the back. Could this be another desperate disappointment for Billy Hamill, the former world champion? Because he's going to go out of this if it can. Oh, up on the top band. 2 riders into the fence. The referee will have to stop this one. And this may be the saviour for Billy Hamill, because he was nowhere in that one as the 2 riders in front of him piled into the fence. Billy Hamill is perfectly okay. Brian Anderson's okay. But that was Robert Daddos and Tony Casper, the 2 Eastern European riders. And really, well, Peter, it was wild riding, wasn't it? Look at it.
Yeah, Daddos is having a big go round the outside, gets it all wrong. He catches Casper, but Casper goes down very, very badly. He falls very heavily into that fence there. That's the worst part of the track that you could possibly ever want to crash. And we can see this one again. Daddos has already gone down. He's hit the fence there, quite lightly, to be honest, but Tony Casper's gone in very, very hard into that gate where they come out.
The referee has excluded Robert Daddos as the cause of that stoppage, and that really is a little bit odd, but let's see what Casper did in front. Daddos went down first, Peter.
Yes, but Daddos actually caught Tony Casper's back wheel and threw Tony totally offline. Tony got in all knots a bit later on as he went out of camera, and he crashed very heavily into that bit of fence there, and I do sort of feel for him. I just hope he's going to get up and walk away from this one.
Well, Robert Daddos will have to walk away from Coventry because Robert Daddos is out of this meeting. Robert Daddos excluded by our Hungarian referee Istvan Drago as the prime cause of the stoppage, and repairs to the fence will take a minute or 2 before we can get the meeting underway again, I'm sure. We can see what's happened there. So down in our studio pit side is Jonathan Green and Sam Ermolenko.
Yeah, it's a horrible sight to see that, Sam, and it just does give us a couple of minutes to talk about it. You were watching it very closely. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
I was very concerned. I mean, it was obviously the opposite side of where we're standing, and it looks like Daddos was on the outside, and the way this track sucks the riders in, I mean, well, it's just one of those things. These guys aren't regular riders at this track. I know PC said that most of these guys are, but Daddos and both Casper aren't. And this track is very narrow straightaways, and when you get in the corner, it opens up. And the way the track's been going, if they've been watching it, the guys that are winning are using the high line right now, and I think they both were chasing the high line.
Well, let's take a look at it, Sam. We can see it here in the monitor, and here's a nice close-up of Daddos fighting it.
Daddos definitely got a lot of grip going in there, tried to control it. It doesn't look like from that picture there that he actually touched him, but the way this track is set up, that is actually the entry to the track, and we don't see it just past him right there. And that is where Casper came off and went straight into the fence. I mean, he didn't have an arc to slide off of and went straight into it.
What concerns me, I know you were in a big tumble yourself at Hull a couple of weeks ago. What about Casper? Because that's the real worry, isn't it?
I mean, it's definitely, if he hit his back or something, I mean, because he went straight, it looked like they're working on him down there, and if he's injured himself, he's probably shunt himself pretty hard. It's definitely a problem. I hope that he's okay. I mean, he's a pretty tough guy. he's one of the older chaps like me. So
well, let's take a look at it next to another angle if we can.
Oh,
perhaps.
here you go. You can see Casper. There he goes. He just gets off the bike, and we don't see it, but you can see the bike bounce off that fence. So the fence did not move, and he was underneath it. So I mean, geez, you know, he's probably went straight into it, pretty awkward. They did show a bit of a view of it where his legs were tangled a bit, so maybe he went in with his legs.
Okay, well, they're just putting some repairs to the fence down there. It's just a couple of 100 yards from where we are, and just about 15 yards over there is Kelvin Tatum. He's in the pits, and he's talking to one of the British hopefuls, Scott Nichols.
Thanks, Jonathan. Joining me now is Scott. While there's this small delay with the crash, I'm going to have a quick word with him. Scott, this is your first Grand Prix, obviously, as a wild card. You must be delighted to be here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You know, it's probably it's one of the biggest, my biggest meet I've ever competed in. So, yeah, I'm delighted to be chosen for it. And, you know, I got my first race out the way. There's always big nerves to that one. So hopefully I can carry on. I had a pretty good start, so it seems okay.
Yeah, you finished second in the race, and you said to me just before we were talking that it was a bit greasy in the first race. Do you feel that, you know, you cope with the conditions quite well?
Yeah, I mean, like in the first one, it was sort of wet and a bit sort of greasy. So, and now obviously the track has changed a lot, and I've got quite a big gap between my race. So I'm just trying to have a look at the track and see how it's changing. Try and work out. Hopefully, I've done the right thing to my bike to compensate for the change.
Okay, I know that you've got an injured hand, and there was some talk about that you wouldn't take part this evening. Obviously, it's working okay.
Yeah, I injured my hand a week ago. You know, I was obviously a little bit worried, so I got the under 21 final next week, which is, you know, very important to me. So I wasn't going to do anything that I thought would jeopardise that, and I did practice yesterday, and the hand felt okay. So, you know, it's not perfect, but, you know, I'm getting on with it, and I didn't really have any problems with my first ride. So hopefully, you know, it won't be a problem, and I'll be able to go on and have some more good races.
Thanks very much, Scott. Best of luck for the rest of the meeting, and now back to the Coventry box.
Well, certainly lots of conversations. There's the phone in the pits where they have a chat with the referee, and I'm just wondering, that's Robert Dados we saw walking away from the phone, who clearly was complaining about his exclusion. There may be some language difficulties. Robert Dados at pole. Our referee is the Hungarian, controversially in charge of the Intercontinental final, which took 4 hours to compete, Peter. How difficult is it to communicate with a referee from that part of the world?
Well, it looks as though they were struggling about it. I know there's been a few problems with the Hungarian referee, certainly at Poole in the Intercontinental final 2 weeks ago. You know, there's quite a few complaints that the communication wasn't good enough, but they seem to have got over that. But what I'm a bit concerned about in this one really is Tony Casper, because he is actually should be in the rerun, because I mean I personally think that Robert Dados was the cause of that race to be stopped. I mean, he got in all sorts of tangles, and I'm pretty sure that he caught Tony Casper's back wheel, but Tony's still up there on the track, and I'm a bit concerned about that.
Well, they're running down there with some equipment, which is not, I'm not sure whether that's to repair the machinery or to repair the fence. There is a problem with the fence in that corner, which, as Sam said, is slightly different from where it is in most of the track. That's where the riders come into it. Oh, we're delighted to see that at least Tony Casper's sitting up, PC, but he's in pain, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it looks as though he's in a sitting position, and possibly he's got maybe lower leg problems, but I'm hoping he's going to get up on his feet, because he's a very tough lad, Tony, and he's been down a long time, but there we go. I mean, it's marvellous to see him up on his feet, because to be perfectly honest, I thought it was going to be worse than that.
Well, Tony Casper is 36 years old, and he's bouncing around, dare I say, the bouncing check, as he charged into the fence there, and delighted to see him up and about. And I know, Peter, that you've watched him racing over the years. He's still an Eastbourne asset, and it looks as if our referee has a bit of tolerance, that even a man shaken like that will be up on his bike and back in action again shortly.
Well, I really thought that the best thing he could have got was at least a broken leg out of that one, and to see him walking back, that's marvellous. I mean, he is a real tough character. I mean, I just don't know how he's managed to do that.
Man on the left, Graham Reeve, the liaison officer, former secretary of the ACU. He's the liaison officer here for this Grand Prix, and he's helping things along. And I know that, you know, we've got track staff here. We've got all sorts of people helping here to keep this meeting swinging along, but I'm sure sympathies for everybody with Tony Casper, and if our referee is tolerant, of course, he could put the riders on a 2-minute warning, but I just wonder how patient he'll be, because he knows that Casper was not at fault.
I'm pretty sure that the ref's going to give him a bit more time, because Tony was down there a long time, and he could have easily been going off on the stretcher there, Tony. So, I mean, he's got his bike to sort out as well. I'm sure his mechanics are working frantically in the pits to sort that bike, but the way that bike went in the fence, he's probably wrecked it, so he's possibly going out on his number 2 bike.
Well, there we are, Tony Casper. Look at him bouncing. He's sweating like we are because it is very, very hot. The sun's back out on the far side of the arena. The pits are very, very busy. It's a packed house here. Lovely to see it at Coventry. You can see them in the background in the stands and terraces. And as the sun goes down and the lights come on this balmy summer's evening, well, it's quite a scene here at Grand Prix. And this is an occasion to remember. And Tony Casper, look, they're getting his machinery ready. Look at him. They're just feeling the pressure of the tyre. Cool as you like. Well, there's Casper disappearing off, you see in the distance to the pitch too. He's got to find a helmet, I suppose, to get on board that one.
Well, he seems to be walking okay, doesn't he? Had a bit of a trot there, and no concussion.
Well, we understand that he's got a few seconds more before the 2-minute warning starts, and Ollie Olsen, the race director in the pits, is playing his part in sorting this out. But there we have Tony Casper, who we know is wearing the red helmet colour, and he will be there, and I'm sure that barring accidents with his machinery, well, the courage of this man should be recognised. Remember, he has to finish in the top 2 in heat number 6 to qualify. But one moment, Peter, the man that really faded was Billy Hamill, and this break, this time to get his equipment right, could really have benefited Billy Hamill more than anybody.
Yeah, I would think that Billy Hamill and his mechanics have been frantically trying to sort those bikes out because you know, it's make or break for Billy, because if he doesn't finish in the top 2 positions in this heat, he will be eliminated, and that would be one terrible turn up for him here, especially being on his home track here at Coventry, and things just don't seem to be going right for him right now. So I'm sure that they've all got their heads together and been frantically working on those machines.
Well, there's the time counting down bottom right-hand corner of your screen of the 2 minutes given to the riders to get on their way to tapes. That is Tony Casper. Now, he's on the way, Tony Casper, and I'm sure that he will now make it to the start. Whether he's a bit shaken, well, that's another matter completely. Tony Casper then, the rider for whom all the weight was about. Going with him still in this with Robert Dados excluded. We have Billy Hamill going from the outside gate in yellow, and Brian Anderson, the Coventry captain and track specialist, he will go from gate number 2. They still haven't got the tapes down, so the riders have had a little bit longer to go round the track and get themselves acclimatised. And our referee, almost unlimited patience there. He comes from Hungary. Wonder whether it's for the Eastern European. Does the referee favour them a little bit, Peter?
Well, I think the ref's had a bit of criticism, really, and I think he's probably trying to do his best in this one. He doesn't want to be controversial, and he's doing the right thing right now by allowing extra time, and, you know, I'm sure that that's the right move to do. I mean, common sense has to prevail when something like this has just happened, and full marks to him. I just hope he's going to keep this up for the rest of the night.
There's Brian Anderson, the Coventry captain, of course, from Denmark, who goes from gate number 2 in this one, already up at tapes. He will be certainly have benefited by that time. This is heat number 6. Remember, Robert Dados already out. The last rider of the 3 now taking part in this rerun will be eliminated. The front 2, top 2 will march on. And Tony Casper, the courageous Tony Casper, certainly in the red helmet colours on the inside. That man in blue there is Brian Anderson, hanging back. And on the outside, there's a gap, of course, for the excluded Robert Dados. And on the outside is Billy Hamill. There he is in yellow and black. And Billy Hamill, I just wonder, Peter, what would he have been doing during that time in the pits?
Well, like I say, he's been mechanical, I'm sure. I mean, I noticed he had 1 Jawa and 1 GM machine, so he's totally undecided what he's riding at the moment.
Casper, Anderson, blank space, and Hamill on the outside. Hamill looks across. Hamill looks down at the machine as it comes up. Hamill will go wide and pick up the grip. The American is back in this one with a vengeance, trying to get through. Casper closed the gate. The courageous Casper is in pole position out front, but Billy Hamill is now flying in this one.
Yeah, Billy used that dirt there around the outside. He made a very good first turn. He used the dirt down the back straight. He rode very, very close to the fence, just squeezed through that gap there and had enough speed to go around the dazed Tony Casper, because I'm sure Tony's riding a little bit below par at the moment, but he's really got to hold out Brian Anderson, who's now having a big go on that same line as Hamill did.
Anderson picking it up. Has he got time to get round there to eliminate Casper and stay in this the Dane? Hamill out front is going wider and wider. Anderson is now picking up the inside with a lap to go. Casper holds second place. Anderson will have another go at the back there, right-hand side of your screen. He's still trying. Away out front now in the yellow helmet colours is Billy Hamill. Hamill will go through, no problem. The Coventry fans will cheer. Tony Casper gets second place. Sadly for the lads from Coventry watching this, and sadly for the Danish supporters in blue, Brian Anderson will go out of this. But as I said at the time, the break certainly benefited Billy Hamill. It enabled him to take the checkered flag. And Billy Hamill stays in the Grand Prix with a win there in Heat 6 ahead of Tony Casper, who bounced up from that dreadful crash to earn second place and carry on. Disappointment for Brian Anderson, who's eliminated. But what an extraordinary train of events for Heat 6, and what an extraordinary turnaround for Billy Hamill. And we can see here, look at this from the start, Peter.
Yeah, we can see this is the start. Billy Hamill there on the outside. He's not made the start particularly well. Tony Casper on the inside has made a great effort there in the red. You can see Tony there right in the centre of the picture. Brian Anderson's out of touch there in second place. But you see Tony's got a great line around that first turn. But Billy Hamill, you see Billy now, he's going to squeeze down now, down that outside, between the fence. His elbows just skimming that safety fence. When he gets down to the bottom turn, he's got the fast run around the outside, just enough speed, just to sneak round the outside of Tony Casper, who's riding the inside where there is far less grip.
Well, Tony Casper recovered, but Jonathan and Sam in the studio, I'm sure, watched that one with great interest.
Yeah, it's I don't think any of us can recover. It's all going on at the moment. But I suppose the good news, Billy Hamill, he needed to be a hero tonight.
I mean, it was a desperate, he was so lucky that the accident happened in front of him and he had a second chance. And whatever he did in that one, I know he had his head down all the way to the corner thinking, I just got to keep going. And because he knew the track, he got by Casper. I mean, that was a pretty daring move to go all the way around the outside. And he squeezed his elbows in and made it.
This is a big night for Billy. Billy's not the kind of guy that likes to be in this situation.
I mean, he's pretty down right now. That should boost him up a bit. He should feel a bit more confident about it.
Okay, well, we're all ready for the next heat. Let's go back to our commentary team.
Well, a tremendous heat in prospect here in Heat 7. That's Greg Hancock, the American former world champion who rides for Coventry. The man in blue, Andy Smith, 3 times a British champion here on this same track. And a great ride for him, first time out, Andy Smith, when he won Heat 3. And there in the white helmet colours, pulling back Mark Laram. Mark Laram was second in Heat 2. Another good ride for him as well. That's 2 Brits on the outside in yellow and black. That is Peter Carlson on the outside. The Swede who rides for Wolverhampton in the British Elite League. There's the lineup. The American Greg Hancock from the inside gate. 2 Brits, Andy Smith and Mark Laram. Peter Carlson on the outside. That's the lineup. This is Heat 7. Remember, we're now getting into the serious stuff. Riders starting to be eliminated, and this is an important one for all 4 for a variety of reasons. And for my money, well, Greg Hancock's the man to win this one, PC.
Well, if Greg starts like he did in that last one, he's going to win this one. But of course, Andy Smith and Mark Lorimer are in there, and they're both real racers.
Starting marshal moves away, the tapes go up and away on the inside goes Greg Hancock to pole position. But look at Mark Laram, they're locking up, the Ram has gone round. There was contact and a half there to send Hancock back to 3rd place. The Ram was taking no prisoners, and now Hancock is going to have to battle to get by Andy Smith. What a battle, what a race in 2nd place, but what a move by Mark Laram on that first bend.
Yeah, Tony, the 2 English boys are here, 1st and 2nd, they're holding Hancock behind. Hancock's in 3rd place. Andy Smith having a great ride there, holding Hancock behind. But of course, look at Mark Loram out there, miles in front, really flying. Hancock's coming under the inside of Andy Smith. He's having a big blast around there.
What a tremendous battle in 2nd place. What a flyer, Mark Laram out front. But look at these 2. Andy Smith in the blue helmet colours, Greg Hancock in the red. And with a lap to go, they're going to battle for every yard behind Mark Laram, who's going wider and faster and faster. But look at Hancock now, he's coming up the inside there. What a battle between these 2 track experts. The checkered flag, will it come in time for Andy Smith? Yes, it does. The Ram in white wins that ahead of Smith in blue. The 2 Brits mark on. Greg Hancock will have to battle again. Disappointment at the rear for Peter Carlson, but what a speedway race. Mark Laram shot away round the first bend. Then it was a battle galore between Andy Smith and Greg Hancock in 2nd place. There are the captions to show you the results. Mark Laram and Andy Smith march on to the main event. Greg Hancock still has more to do, but that was quite a race. A marvellous ride by Laram. From the tapes, it was tough, but onto that first bend, they hit with a bang.
Well, they did. Look at the start. That's Mark Loram there in the white helmet. He doesn't quite make the start ahead of Hancock. Hancock's there in the red, right underneath him. They contact as they enter the turn. Mark pulled down there. Mark wasn't phased there. He's not worried by any rider. He looks across there at Greg Hancock. But the good thing here now for Andy Smith was there was a gap for him to go around the inside and cut on the inside of Greg Hancock. Now Greg really is in trouble because Greg's out in no man's land and now having to face the prospect of finishing in 3rd place. But look at Mark Laram there, using that dirt. It's a great ride for him. He's got lots of grip as he comes out of that turn, and Andy Smith tucking in behind. English boys 1-2. Great news for the Brits.
Well, I can tell you the way that's worked out, Mark Laram's tremendous win gives him the doubtful reward of meeting up with Thomas Golub and Hans Nielsen in Heat 11. That's going to be some contest. Andy Smith's record takes him alongside Jimmy Nielsen and Jason Crump. But Mark Laram, we know the sort of rider he is. We have heard today that if Mario Yeru is not fit for the next round of the Grand Prix in Bydgoszcz, then Mark Laram will automatically go in. And on this form, we know that Mark Laram is just the man to carry the British flag. But now, as we move on to heat number 8, Lee Adams is the rider in red on the inside who won heat number 2 in flying style. Lee Adams, the Australian. Currently, Lee Adams not so good as he might have thought in the Grand Prix series so far, down at 11 with 25 Grand Prix points. Coming up in blue in the background there is the Dane Brian Carger, who had to, of course, move through the eliminating stages. In the white helmet colours there is our man Scott Nicholls, so enterprising in heat number 1 where he came second. The 21-year-old, of course, riding in the World Under-21 Championship next weekend. And on the outside in yellow and black, British hope Chris Louis. 2 Brits, an Australian and a Dane. It's the Aussie Lee Adams on the inside of Brian Carger from Denmark. And then Scott Nicholls and Chris Louis. Chris Louis, of course, the Ipswich captain. Scott Nicholls from that area, but now riding down at Poole in the British Elite League. This is important for the 2 Brits. Are they in the right gates, PC?
Yeah, this is great experience for Scott Nicholls to be here in this Grand Prix.
While starting Marshall walks away, will Nicholls get a start? Louis does on the outside. They're packing into that first bend. Louis got the line. He's gone too wide and almost into the fence at the back. But Scott Nicholls is battling. Scott Nicholls is there in white in second place. In red leading is the Australian Lee Adams, who will have his second successive victory on the night. But Scott Nicholls is still there. The talent of this young man has shown promise. The talent of this young man could go a long, long way. But out front, Lee Adams, the Australian, riding smoothly. Carger putting the challenge on Nicholls in second place. Nicholls losing the grip there as Carger goes wide to pick it up. That a mistake by the young man who'll have to come back, PC.
Yeah, there's some grip out there wide on that bottom turn where Casper crashed earlier, and Brian Carger used that to go by Scott Nicholls. That's bad news for Scott because he looked as though he was consolidating that second place, but no one's got any answer whatsoever to Lee Adams, who is looking so quick tonight.
And the sad part for the Brits is they are in the last 2 places of both Chris Louis and Scott Nicholls will have to battle again. But Lee Adams will march on to the main event as he takes the checkered flag in red. Second place in blue, Brian Carger. Scott Nicholls looks down at his machinery in white there and wonders what went wrong. And Chris Louis really there on the first bend. It was he that had a problem. And from that point of view, the Brits still have to fight. Some are going well, some not so well. A win for Lee Adams, the Australian, his second heat win ahead of Brian Carger. They move to the main event. And from their point of view, well, the Brits, who suffered a bit on the start, will have to do it all again. We've got plenty more action to come here. 8 heats have gone. There's another 16 all to come here on Sky Sports as the action gets hotter and hotter at the Brandon Stadium here at Coventry.
Book him, Dana. Oh, that's a cool show. I like that show, you know. Do you remember Steve McGarrett? McGarrett was the man. He was like the geezer with the haircut.
And he used to say, book him, Dana.
And he used to say,
express yourself. Book him, Dana.
Okay, we got the book him, Dana, okay?
Yeah, you like saying that.
See the world your way.
You gonna have a hold then, Jay?
Holder? What? How'd you hold a baby?
Oh, that's your uncle.
Hello.
We'll be right back.
That's it.
Come and visit your local Volkswagen retailer, where you can now pick up a brand new Volkswagen Polo L, complete with side impact protection and a free sunroof for an on-the-road price of just...
She likes you. Mum's been on the phone night and day, of course.
Budweiser.
I can't believe they went with the frogs.
Louis.
Our audition was flawless.
Louis.
We did the look. Huh? We did the tongue thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was great.
Louis, frogs sell beer. That's it, man. #1 rule of marketing.
The Budweiser lizards. We could have been huge.
Hey, there'll be other auditions.
Oh, yeah, for what? This was Budweiser, buddy.
know.
This was big. Those frogs are gonna pay.
Let it go, Louis. Let it go.
Welcome back to Coventry. You're watching the British Grand Prix here on Sky Sports. We're definitely in the thick of it. As you can see, we're down in the pits watching what's going on down there. Kelvin's keeping an eye on what's happening up there. Me and Sam are right over the first corner. We're not missing any action. But so far it's been fast and furious, and we've not even got to the main event yet. But the good news is we've already got a couple of Brits through to that main event. Mark Laram's got to face Thomas Gollop straight off.
I mean, there's been some big surprises in my eyes. I mean, this track is, the way they started out in the meeting, obviously they didn't have things set up in practice because the first couple of races, some of the guys didn't have it together. And having that first race and having the chance to go into the next side of it is doing them well.
What's interesting is we see lots of the fans here in Britain who've come to see Mark Laram. All of the riders were struggling yesterday in practice. The only rider not to ride was Andy Smith, who had his own elite. He had his own elite match.
Right.
He actually got a maximum in that as well for Bellevue, so that was pretty good. But everybody came here. It was hot. It was dusty. They just watered it just before practice, and everybody came away going, "Well, I got nothing out of that." And that's maybe why there's a couple struggling.
I've never really favored Coventry as a Grand Prix type track because it is very tight, and it is sometimes down to just making a good start. But we've seen some really good races so far, and there seems to be a lot of the guys chasing the high line. And if they all chase it so early, there might not be nothing left at the end. So hopefully the graders will do a good job bringing it back.
Well, out of the corner of my eye, I can see that the riders are going out for the next heat, Heat 9. So let's get back to our commentary team once again of Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
Yes, heats 9 and 10 are heats that see riders eliminated. Each the last 2 riders will go out, and this is going to be important. That man in blue there is Tony Casper, who was shaken with that effort, I can tell you. And Tony Casper has stormed back into this one. Well, Mark Laram's with Kelvin Tatum in the pits, and Mark Laram is the man of the moment. Mark Laram's with Kelvin, I think.
That's right. Joining me now is Mark Laram. Perfect ride in the last ride. He got away, hard first corner, but looked like your bike setup was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much difference when you get out in front, you know, get a bit of fresh air on your goggles and you can ride the line you want and get good speed. The first race I didn't feel very special, but like I say, you know yourself, when you get out in front, it makes a difference.
Yeah, perfect ride. We'll talk to you later on, hopefully.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Okay, thanks.
Mark Laram, of course, destined perhaps for future greatness in the Grand Prix and destined perhaps to take part in the next 2, even though he's only a wild card. This now is heat number 9, where 2 will go, and we hope they won't be one of the Brits, which is Chris Louis, who we see on the left-hand side of your camera there on the outside. On the inside, Henrik Gustafsson from Sweden. Gate 2 is Tony Casper, the shaken Czech who bounced around the circuit. Greg Hancock on his home track will be looking for better. And Chris Louis, the Ipswich and Great Britain captain, goes from the outside. We're desperate for Chris Louis to get a good start here. Starting Marshall moves away. They look down, of course, on the inside there in white. Hancock gets to the apex of the bend. Louis is going to pick the outside and pick up the grip, and does, to move smoothly into second place with a touch on the way with Henrik Gustafsson. Can Louis keep it? Gustafsson is going wide. Hancock is going fast out front. Gustafsson's going to take it wider. Louis is going to have to watch the Swede behind him. Back in third place is Casper, who looks to be out of this one. But Hancock in front. It's the 2 in second and third, Peter, are battling.
Yeah, Chris Louis got to move out because Gustafsson's having that big go round the outside. Greg Hancock's having a great run now. He's no idea of all the pandemonium and chaos that's going on behind him. Chris Louis now consolidating that second place. Gustafsson now seems to have given up the challenge, Tony.
Yeah, way at the back in blue is Tony Casper. He's going to go out. Louis, with a lap to go, has a 20-metre advantage over Henrik Gustafsson. Greg Hancock is going to be the favourite of the Coventry fans here as the former world champion marches on. He's had his problems. They haven't gone the way he might have done many times, but now he's got time to look back. And as he looks back, he sees Chris Louis in his wake. Further back is Henrik Gustafsson in red, who goes out. And so too does a disappointed but heroic Tony Casper. We know that Chris Louis is now through to the main event. We know that Greg Hancock, the former world champion, is through as well. Gustafsson and Casper, they have to depart. They can go home early. Heat 9, as they say, perhaps are shorted out the sheep from the goats. But really, well, Greg Hancock is a super rider.
Yeah, on the start, Hancock made a perfect start. I mean, he was totally out there like a scalded cat. You can see on the outside, Chris Louis, we're following him round that first turn. Now Chris is in third place at this point. There's Gustafsson on the inside. Now Henke doesn't realise that Chris Louis is coming, because when Chris gets alongside Gustafsson, Gustafsson had a terrible shock there as Chris Louis sailed down the outside run along that fence, and he generally consolidated that race as he carried on. Gustafsson at this point looks as though he's going to get round the outside of everybody, but not enough speed, not enough grip out there. But what a start and what a ride from Greg Hancock. I mean, really, that's exactly what he needed and just what he needed right now.
Well, certainly it was for Greg Hancock. Another disappointing Grand Prix has ended for Henrik Gustafsson, who has so frequently promised so much. But no disappointment for Greg Hancock. The former world champion is through to the main event. And I can tell you from his point of view, well, it's going to be far from easy as they battle on. He will be matching up against Stefan Dano and Ron Sullivan in Heat 13. But Heat number 10, again, is coming up now, and this is one that'll again separate. And that man there, Billy Hamill, will want to emulate his countryman, his pal and his fellow X-side rider in qualifying by the back door, as you might say. And what has Billy Hamill got to do this time, Peter?
Oh, I don't know, Tony. He seems to be hanging on there by the skin of his teeth. He really struggled. He was very lucky to get through in that last one. And here he is now. This is an elimination heat because third and fourth here are going to go out of this Grand Prix. So he's got to be in the first two. And Scott Nichols is in there. So I suppose I might be shouting for Scott a little bit.
Well, the two Carlson brothers, if they get to the apex of the bend first, I'm sure there'll be some team riding there with them both together in this one. But certainly it's going to be a battle royal in this one. And we are cheering, of course, for Scott Nichols, the youngster in the white helmet colours there, pulling back, who did so well to start with, but I think was caught by, well, the old three-card trick, if you like, in his second race when he was passed on the outside with a fast line. Billy Hamill goes from the inside in red. In gate 2, it's Michael Carlson in blue. Scott Nichols goes in white, and Peter Carlson from the outside goes in yellow and black. The Carlson brothers, who ride for Sweden, they ride for Wolverhampton. They're separated by us by initials. Sadly, not on our captions for the moment. Billy Hamill and Scott Nichols. Billy Hamill, of course, a Coventry rider here. They look across to the magnet. Oh, and Scott Nichols will go out of this one, I'm sure, for touching the tapes. And sadness for the youngster, because it's exclusion for Scott Nichols. It's hardly disappointing. It could hardly be more disappointing. And look at that, Peter. Was it nerves for the young man?
Well, we can see Scott Nichols' left hand there. He's got two fingers taped together. Now, that could be part of his problem because that broken bone in his hand, it's on his clutch hand. So basically, he's having to use that hand all the time. He's having to hold on to that clutch. And I think he felt that he got to the point where he was going to let that clutch go and then hold on to the bar, but of course he was too soon, and he's off back to the pits, and his meeting's over, and that's the sad thing, because I think that's quite a bit down to this injury that he's carrying, Tony.
Well, he was talking to us yesterday about that. He showed us the hand. He thought the doctor may not even pass him fit to race, but the doctor did say he could race, did say he could make the practice, and well, this was his first ever Grand Prix. It started so well, but it's ended in disappointment. I think we should explain for our viewers that if you touch the tapes, it's automatic exclusion these days, and the referee Isvan Durago from Hungary had no option than to put Scott Nichols out.
Yeah, I did sort of tongue-in-cheek suggest that Scott possibly could put the clutch lever on his throttle hand and work the two with the one hand, but I don't think he fancied that too much, Tony.
Redesigning the bike and mechanics as Peter Collins. I can tell you that Scott Nichols is in the World Under-21 Championships at Voyens next weekend, and there is another meeting alongside that, which is a pairs event, and Peter Collins is partnering Mark Laram. Peter, what do we feel like to be back in the saddle?
Oh, terrified, Tony. I'm not looking forward to it at all, but I suppose when you get on the bike, everything comes back, or certainly I hope it's going to anyway, but I probably won't be riding around at the front, Tony, that's for sure.
We've seen some big adverts around this track about a video called the Collins Boys as well. That shows Peter through the years. I'm sure that those memories will come flooding back at Voyens at the weekend. We're waiting for the starting tapes to be put into shape here after Scott Nichols hit them here. A reminder, just 3 riders remain in this Heat 10. Scott Nichols has already gone out, and 1 of 3, Billy Hamill, Michael Carlson and Peter Carlson, will all go out in this one. The first 2 will march on to the main event, and the last man of the 3 will go. This is heat number 10, the restart with Scott Nichols crashing out, of course, or not crashing out, going into the tapes and being excluded by our referee. Remember, in the early part of the event, we have 24 riders in the Grand Prix, 16 start in the first 4 heats. 8 remain after this heat number 10 to join the 8 seeded riders. They're the top dogs. Starting marshal walks away, looking across is Billy Hamill. He rears again, and now he's got work to do behind Michael Carlson in front. Back at the rear is Peter Carlson in yellow. Peter Carlson's got a mechanical problem, and this means that Billy Hamill will go through. Peter Carlson at the back is out of this. The other two will have to race each other only for position of gates, I have to tell you, and in whatever heat these two go in, they will be going in the outside two gates, because that's the way it works out. And Michael Carlson in front of Billy Hamill, and Hamill, who started so badly at the night, Peter Carlson is half a lap behind, but it's all going to come well for Billy Hamill, Peter.
Yes, Michael Carlson's looking very, very good up there front, but Billy Hamill seems to be getting things together now. It looks as though he's riding the Jawa machine in this bike, and it is looking a lot better than it was early on, but he really has got to go a little bit quicker than this if he's going to qualify for the later stages of the meeting.
Well, I was talking to Billy Hamill just before the start, and he said he had been riding Jawa but was going tonight on GMs. Well, he suffered problems right at the start with those, and now with the checkered flag, well, no such problem for him in second place here. He goes through to the main event. The man in blue in front of him, Michael Carlson, has time to look back. It means that Michael Carlson and Billy Hamill will go on to the main event. It means sadness for Peter Carlson, who will disappear, and Michael Carlson then and Billy Hamill to the main event. Peter Carlson goes home with the excluded rider Scott Nicholls. The main event is still to follow. The crowd hasn't moved an inch. It's a tremendous night here for the British Grand Prix at Coventry, and we've got another 14 heats of action still to come.
This weekend, 3 times World Superbike champion Carl Fogarty will compete in one of the biggest races of the year. In front of over 70,000 adoring fans, he will race one of the scariest high-speed tracks on the Superbike circuit, Brands Hatch. See the man that plans to raise the British flag and stay #1. The World Superbike Championship, tomorrow morning at 11, live on Sky Sports 3.
Size. It's not everything. 16 valves, increased torque, stiffer suspension, firmer dampers, extra va-va-voom. That's all very impressive. But really, you ought to be seeing it in the hands of a master.
The new Renault Clio 16 valve. Size matters.
There's no respect.
Hey, Pops, try my incredible new Goodfellas pizza pie. It's a pizza and a pie.
It's crazy. A pizza is a pizza.
Not this one, Pops.
What are you talking?
I'm talking more juicy tomatoes, more cheese, more herbs. I'm talking crispy. What do you say, Pops? What is it?
It's the tomatoes. It's the pepperoni. It's the herbs. Such a cheese. No, wait, it's so full and so crispy. Is it too much?
No, full and crispy pizza pie from Goodfellas. Tasting is believing.
I'm meeting someone, but I'd quite like to freshen up first. It's just over here, sir. Thanks. Hello.
The best things come to those who loaf. Here's to maximum refreshment, minimum effort.
You smell nice.
Thanks, I've just been to the lavatory.
Now you can reconnect to BT for our lowest ever price. Absolutely nothing. So it's no wonder that thousands are coming back, even those who've been away for a while. Call us now on 0800 800 810 to reconnect for free.
If you love films, there's something you've got to see. You direct the new pay-as-you-go film service. You pick the film, you pick the start time. There's no subscription, you only pay for what you watch. Ring, register, get your first film free. No catch. Simply great films. 08700 111 800.
You direct films. The new pay-as-you-go film service.
Where duty-free stops, the P&O Standard Line price freeze starts. And now you can buy as much as you want. The P&O Standard Line price freeze. No duty-free, no problem.
Welcome back to Coventry. This is the man that everybody's waiting to ride, the great Tomasz Golob of Poland. He's won 2 Grand Prix already. He leads the World Championship, and he's in the main event, no surprise there. And Britain's best rider, I guess, Mark Laram, is going to be up against him, as is Hans Nielsen.
Last year, right at the back last year in the Grand Prix here, Gate 3 was probably the favorite gate. It was when it come down to Ryan Sullivan and Jason Crump flipping the coin. Jason got Gate 3 and he won it. And as we're coming up now,
and we can see just quickly who's been eliminated already, and I suppose no big surprises there. Scott Nichols, a bit of a shame because I think he's riding better than that. There was a couple of mistakes there really for him. Anton Kasper, well, we saw what happened there, and Hendrik Gustafsson, I suppose, big surprise.
yeah, I mean, they're all fighters. Most of those guys are really good racers, but the track probably didn't lend to it today, and they had to make the start and they didn't do it. Like I said, when we're getting into what gate positions are pretty important at the moment, I mean, Mark Laram's at the top of that side there, and Mark Laram's got Gate 3 in the first race of the main event against Tomasz Golob and Hans Nielsen.
Well, it's great news for the Brits, especially Andy Smith. Andy Smith had a quick walk past us a minute ago and gave us the old, yeah, he's enjoying this. He had a maximum yesterday. The guy's on a real high.
Yeah, I mean, the small track, Bellevue is a bit of a small track like Coventry here. So, if he can get out of the start, his bikes look pretty fast out there, so he looks like he's pretty set up for it, so he should have a good chance.
Well, there's plenty of Brits still riding. The main event's just about to get underway, so let's go to our commentary team of Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
Well, the greats come together here, and none is greater in Britain at the moment than this man, Mark Laram. You see in your camera there wearing the white helmet colour in this heat. But look at the man in the background there. That is Tomasz Golob, the man they all want to beat, the highest paid sportsman in Poland. I was reading today, he's thought of in Poland like Alan Shearer is in England. That's Hans Nielsen, of course, multi-world champion, aiming to retire this year. Some people believe that he won't, perhaps, but we'll have to wait and see. He goes, whether he goes to the Grand Prix Challenge or qualifies for next year's Grand Prix, I just wonder whether he will carry on riding. Mark Laram in white there, and the man in yellow and black is the Dane Brian Carger. What about that man, Hans Nielsen, Peter? Will he retire after all?
Well, it's a difficult one to say. I think he's playing his cards pretty close to his chest at the moment. I know he has said this on numerous occasions earlier this year, but it's not been mentioned for a while, so, maybe thinking about having another go next year.
Well, we talked about him in the previous Grand Prix when he held back from first place, and I did actually ask him about whether it was choice of gates, and he was planning. We were talking with Ivan Major, who said that's what he used to do, and Mark Laram knew full well in Wrocław that gate positions were important, and that's exactly what he did. Well, there is Mark Laram, and he's got a lot to do in this one, but Gate 3 will probably help him. Tomasz Golob on the inside. I have a feeling that Golob really prefers the wider gate, Peter.
Yeah, we know he loves the outside, and there is a lot of dirt out wide on the turns. Thomas loves it out there, but he's pinned down on Gate 1. But Gate 1's quite a good starting position, and the way Thomas rides, he can make it from anywhere. He really is world champion material, and we've seen him so many times. He can pull something very, very special out the hat at the last minute.
I know the riders, though, don't like going outside Tomasz Golob, but there's 3 men outside him this time as Jimmy Nielsen watches with interest as what's going to happen. There's Greg Hancock in the background, and now this is the time. This is Mark Laram, and we desperately want him to finish in the first 2. He will get another chance if he doesn't. We're through to the main event, remember. The 8 qualifiers from the first 10 heats are joining the 8 seeded riders. There's the lineup. Tomasz Golob from Poland on the inside. Hans Nielsen from Denmark goes from Gate 2, 3 times the world individual champion. Mark Laram, already a Grand Prix winner this year in white, from Britain goes from Gate 3. And Brian Carger, the unfancied Dane perhaps. The 15 seconds, there's the time up in front of the riders. You can't back away from this now. And Gate 2, the most popular for victories so far there. We see the 40%, the others shared equally. The starting marshal holds them up here now. Starting marshal Norman Keatley marches away. Up go the tapes and away on the inside goes Golob, but look at Nielsen, look at the Ram. The Ram's going through. Golob is right at the back. Oh, he made a big mistake there now, and the all-conquering pole will have an awful lot to do. But a brilliant bend by Mark Laram, and Hans Nielsen, the veteran, is like his former self here now.
Yeah, we know Hans can have his moments when he makes a good start, a good corner. Well, Mark Laram's really having it going, pulls alongside of Hans Nielsen.
Mark Laram looking brilliant in this one. Tomasz Golob will have to go again, but Hans Nielsen leading Mark Laram. We know the class, we know the speed, we know the ability of Mark Laram, and we know the finesse of the professor in front as Hans Nielsen leads this one. We're talking about his retirement, but if he can ride like this, beating some of the best riders in the world with a lap to go. Hans Nielsen may be a veteran, but the speedway skills are there. It's time to look back. He sees in his wake Mark Laram, who's having another go on the inside. What a tremendous ride by the Brit. But cow, look at it, Laram wins it. Oh, and Nielsen shuts off again, and I just wonder if that was tactical, because Mark Laram won it. Third in yellow there was Brian Carger, but Mark Laram took it ahead of Hans Nielsen, and I just wonder, this is something for the lads in the pits and the studio to talk about, because yet again, Hans Nielsen has shut off just before the line to give the victory to Mark Laram. And what a tremendous ride by Mark Laram. And really, it will need some calculations. There's Mark Laram, the winner, ahead of Hans Nielsen and Brian Carger. But I just wonder, because the second rider in Heat 10 will go from Gate 3 in Heat 14 against Rickardson and Screen, and that's what Nielsen has earned for himself.
Yeah, Tony, this is the start. There's Hans in the blue helmet. He wills that bike to the first turn. Now, Thomas Golob on the inside. Thomas makes a good start. Now, because he's come from the inside start position, he's had to turn very sharp. You can see that point there. He's almost going backwards. That's where he lost the race. And Hans Nielsen goes around the outside. Thomas now is struggling. He went from almost first to last, and that's where he stayed. But Mark Laram there in the white helmet stalked and chased Hans Nielsen for the whole race. Tried everything he knew. Hans Nielsen held off. But there on the inside is Brian Carger. Now, this is the last turn. We spoke to Hans Nielsen yesterday, and Hans said he's done this before. Let the rider ahead go by him, so he gets a better start position.
Well, there's more to come, but the talking point from that heat was Hans Nielsen again shutting off. Sam Ermolenko in our studio, I'm sure will have an opinion on that. He's done it before, and he'll probably do it again. Sam, what about that?
Well, I tell you what, I was just saying there, we didn't have time to fit it all in there, but I think Gate 3 is going to be the best gate position. And the guys are working it out. I mean, Greg's on Gate 3 in his next one. Lee Adams on it in this next race. That's probably going to be the favorite gate. I was here a couple of weeks ago in a league match, and Gate 3 won every start. I know that the percentages probably say one thing or the other, but I mean, as the meeting goes on, I think it's going to be the best one.
We can see the fastest heat times, no surprises there, and it's the men that you were mentioning there who are leading those times as well.
Yeah, it's real important right now to really think about the final couple of races, and right now when it gets tougher, as you see, Golob, he didn't make the best of start, but it just depends on who's on the inside of you.
Yeah, he's a smart old cookie, old Hans Nielsen. He knew it all along, but Laram wins the heat. Let's get back to the action with our commentary team.
Well, I have to tell you, I was talking at practice with Hans Nielsen just about that yesterday with Ivan Major, one of the greatest, and that's what they do. Here's the lineup, Heat 12. Jimmy Nielsen, currently second in the Grand Prix standings. Jason Crump goes from Gate 2, winner of the British Grand Prix here last year. Lee Adams, winner of Heat 1 tonight, the Australian, goes from Gate 3. And Andy Smith, 3 times the British champion on this very track, goes from the outside. This is Heat 12, a real cracker in prospect here. I just wonder if Andy Smith on the outside can spring a surprise.
I hope so. Andy can blast around that inside. I'm really hoping he can do that, but I'm looking at Jimmy Nielsen on the inside because we've just seen what happened to Thomas Golob down there, and it did not work for him.
They look across to the tapes, a little bit of creeping by Jimmy Nielsen, who actually made the gate brilliantly there, but it was by anticipation. Nielsen out front will go armchair style from here. Coming round the outside in blue, Jason Crump will chase him all the way. Andy Smith is back in third place. Lee Adams, the Aussie, is in fourth, but a brilliant start by Jimmy Nielsen, albeit with a bit of anticipation. And chasing him all the way is Jason Crump. Getting in on the act now is Andy Smith. There's 2.5 laps to go. Smith has a bit to do, but Nielsen is safe out front.
Oh, Jimmy Nielsen was so clever there on that first turn. He made a perfect start. He rode very, very tight round the inside. And when he came out of that first turn, he was 10 metres in front. I mean, that's unbelievable because that isn't the quick way round on that first turn. But he made it look so good. He's making it look so good now as he's pulling away from the rest of the field.
And Andy Smith is trying there as we go into the last lap in second place to put the pressure on Jason Crump. But Crump will surely hold it firm. At the moment out front, Jimmy Nielsen is going to win this by some 20 metres to march on. Jimmy Nielsen, he takes that with some comfort. Second place goes to Jason Crump in blue. Those two march on to what are the effective quarterfinals. The other two will have to come back, Lee Adams and Andy Smith, to hold their place in the Grand Prix. But it was a brilliant ride by Jimmy Nielsen ahead of last year's Grand Prix winner here, Jason Crump. And Jimmy Nielsen's start was oh so important in that one. It'll be interesting to look at here, Peter, but we look at the outside man, Andy Smith. Jimmy Nielsen crept on the inside.
Yeah, Andy seems to lift there on the start. He's got the front wheel off the ground, but just look at Jimmy Nielsen. He's made a great start. He's not a long way in front when he gets gets to the corner. That's Jason Crump riding wide for the dirt. Jason thinks that's the quickest way round. This is Jason's first ride on the Hagen Shocks GM there, but right around the inside, Jimmy Nilsson, he's already steamed off down that back straight, and he's 10 yards in front when he gets to the bottom turn. There he is, a commanding lead, and the best job in Speedway is the person who cleans Jimmy's leathers, because starting like that, he just never gets them dirty.
Well, we're moving on at pace now with that win for Jimmy Nilsson, keeping him in contention in the Grand Prix, and moving on now to heat number 13. And this is going to be important in more ways than one as we look across at the lineup here, and certainly from Billy Hamill's point of view coming out in this one. That man in blue there is Ryan Sullivan, the Australian. Certainly Ryan Sullivan has been impressive, and at the moment lying 13th in the Grand Prix. His best Grand Prix, of course, the last one in Wroclaw so far. There's Greg Hancock already up at tapes in the white helmet colours. On the inside in red, Stefan Dano. We've talked about him as being a surprise packet. Currently lying 4th in the Grand Prix Series. I have to tell you, he's not going to ride in the British League for the rest of the season, but he did tell me that he's going to come back and ride in the British Elite League next season, properly prepared. And that'll be good news to Eastbourne fans if he goes down there again. But his 2 meetings so far in this country, a little bit disappointing, but not in the Grand Prix, just riding Grand Prix or Swedish League matches for the rest of the season. That's an unusual choice, Peter. Most riders ride wherever they can.
That's right. Stefan, it's interesting to see that Stefan's on that inside position as well. There he is, right down by the curb, and let's just see if he can make the same job as Jimmy Nilsson did, because that was very, very impressive from Jimmy Nilsson. And Stefan's ready there on the start, but on the outside, we've got the 2 Americans who both ride here for Coventry in the Elite League on this track, Greg Hancock, Billy Hamill.
Well, starting marshal moves away. The 2 Americans who ride for Coventry are certainly in the battle, but look at them going right as they swap places there. Hancock, oh, mayhem! The 2 Americans are left here. Dano and Sullivan carved into each other. It'll be an interesting decision by our referee here, Isfan Darago, on this one, and we'll have to see what happened here, because it was chaos. Look at it.
Yeah, Stefan Dano actually took a bit more drive there and rode right into Ryan Sullivan. Stefan, I think, was at fault there, and the referee, if there's going to be something happening here regarding a disqualification, then Dano, I think, would be excluded. But the Americans, Hancock and Hamill, also crashed, but you've got to feel a bit there for Ryan Sullivan, because I think he was the innocent party. We can see Dano in the red. Dano just tends to come, straightens up at that point and runs into the line of Ryan Sullivan and down both Sullivan and Dano into the fence.
Well, it looked to us then from that replay that Stefan Dano was the prime cause of the stoppage, taking away the front wheel of Ryan Sullivan. I don't know whether that'll be the verdict of our referee. We'll have to see. Well, tension here on the rider, and again the first aid staff have to come out to that. Well, it was quite spectacular there, and for my money, certainly Dano was the cause of the stoppage. Problems for Ryan Sullivan's machinery, problems for Dano's machinery, and I just wonder what our referee's decision will be. Machinery has to go back. There's Ryan Sullivan getting to his feet, and well, we can go to our studio, and I wonder what the lads have to think about that. Do you agree it was Stefan Dano's fault, Stan?
Well, I you know, it's first turn bunching, I think. I mean, they're both trying to race when you're on the inside, and he didn't really have a superb gate on him, but he had a chance to move him out a little bit. And basically, I just think I think he tried to give him a little bit of a room. At the same time, he got a little bit of drive.
Well, Jason Crump's also here. You were watching that closely. Jason, what did you see?
Well, it's difficult to say. Like Sam said, it's the first turn. First turns are very important. You don't want to give too much room away.
As a 2-time winner of this particular Grand Prix, you know this track very well, obviously. What are the track conditions like at the moment?
Well, with the weather being so warm, they're a little bit slicker than I anticipated. But you know, like I say, with the hot weather, they've done a great job on the track. It's been very difficult for them, but a little bit slicker than I would have hoped, really. Well,
let's take a look at what just happened. I mean, all 4 riders really involved in this, and we can see it again. The 2 Americans bucking Brocken as well.
Yeah, they were. They were getting a bit out of control there together, but Ryan and Dano just touched there, going for the dirt line coming out of the corner, and you know, it's possibly nobody's fault, just hard racing.
That's the problem with this kind of a track. I mean, it is a very narrow track, and then when you get into the corner, it opens up. So the boys tend to think that there's a chance to keep going, but then it also funnels back, doesn't it, Jason?
It does. Coming out of the corners, the fence comes back quite sharply, especially on
right
the second
there,
bend. Yeah.
Right there where they just hit the wall.
You anticipate there's a lot of room, and then all of a sudden there's not a lot of room left at all.
Jason, a quick word about your particular Grand Prix. A big night for you. You've had so much great success. I know it's your birthday next week, and I know that this particular venue and this Grand Prix has great memories for you. How are you feeling? How's the setup for tonight?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. You know, home's half an hour away, so I enjoy coming here for the Grand Prix. You know, we just use our normal base, normal race preparation, and it's good fun.
Well, as we can see, Ryan Sullivan hobbling back. Not a good scene for him.
No, not at all.
What happens, Jason, now? I mean, these guys come here. I mean, I know everybody's trying to be prepared, but it looked like Daniel's bike was damaged and possibly Ryan's bike. I mean, are you prepared with two bikes if something like this was to happen?
Yeah, I was had a bit of a difficult practice session yesterday, Sam. I had to toss a coin to decide which bike to ride.
What a good feeling.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, as you know, but I was really pleased with that, and knowing Ryan's set up, he'll have another bike there ready to go.
Yeah, he seems to be smiling, so they seem to be in control of what they're doing.
They know what's going on, yeah.
Well, Jason, best of luck for the rest of the evening. We'll be seeing you in action, I'm sure, in a few moments' time.
Thanks.
But
See you,
while we're waiting for the restart of what was, well, amazing mayhem at the end of that last one, or at the beginning of that last one, it looks as though Ryan Sullivan is hobbling back and getting himself sorted out. Let's go back to our commentary team once again.
Well, as we look down at the track here, quite spectacular, the Brandon circuit. I can tell you they're introducing go-kart racing on that centre green, which is all concrete. We saw some spectacular stuff, car driving earlier on, rapid parking. That man in blue, Ron Sullivan. Another one shaken by that little contretemps with Stefan Dano. All four riders back in. Stefan Dano in the red helmet colour will a go from the inside. There he is in the background. You see Stefan Dano going through. And a referee does have options, Peter Collins, but there, do you think he exercised it correctly?
Well, it's touch and go. I mean, those first corner incidents, they're always debatable, but I tended to feel the views that we saw of that incident. I really did feel that Stefan Dano was to blame for that. He kind of went offline at the very last minute and took Ryan Sullivan's front wheel away, and Ryan went down heavily, and I think it was Stefan's fault.
I have to tell you, we have just seen the most extraordinary situation down the side track here, with spare bikes being taken down towards the start for both Billy Hamill and Greg Hancock, who are out on the track now in this one, but spare machinery by their mechanics waiting at the end of the straight. And I haven't seen that before. It's an interesting manoeuvre. I think they felt when it takes too long to get spare bikes from the pits that they're going to be ready this time.
Well, Billy's already had that problem, hasn't he, in that first one? He couldn't get his spare bike down quickly enough and was excluded. So they've got, you know, they've got bikes down there already, but I mean, it's a desperate move, you know, when they've got to do this, because they must be having trouble.
Well, that's unusual for those two lads who are normally so well prepared, but there's the lineup for the restart. Stefan Dano from Sweden on the inside. Ron Sullivan goes from gate 2 in blue, the Australian. The two Americans, both of whom ride here at Coventry, Greg Hancock and Billy Hamill, go from the outside two gates, and I'm sure all the riders will be hoping that, well, it's not quite like last time. There we see the success from the start positions. Gate 2 the most successful so far. That a little bit unusual. Our starting marshal walks away. Here we go for the restart. Up go the tapes. Dano looks down at his machinery. Coming across well, Hancock in white. Picking it up on the outside, Billy Hamill in yellow. He's left no space at all as Dano comes across. Going through in blue is Ron Sullivan. Now the battle is joined. The gate shut well and truly on Hamill, who now has to battle from the back. But Hancock's got a flyer out front. Interesting tactics on that bit.
There's some great racing here going on, Tony, but Greg Hancock's made the start and he's away. He's getting a good lead, but behind him there's all kinds going on, because Billy Hamill's at the back having a big run around the outside of Ryan Sullivan. Ryan was up to second place at one point. Now he's back in third. Stefan Dano's back into second place. There's all kinds going on here out on the track, Tony.
Hamill almost up against the fence there. Sullivan up against the back of Stefan Dano. Hancock in no trouble out front with a lap to go. Hancock is wheel perfect on this one. In second place at the moment is Stefan Dano, but it's not all over yet. Ron Sullivan storms through on the inside there to take Dano wide. Dano will try to come back. Hamill's out of this. Here comes Dano again, but Hancock holds it, and just on the line, Sullivan gets there in second place in blue with Stefan Dano really in third place there in red. Greg Hancock out front in white. That was perhaps the race of the evening. That man, Greg Hancock, took the checkered flag. Will be delighted with that because he got away from the mayhem, but the action for the minor placings was quite obscene in some way. Hancock, Sullivan, Dano the finishing order. Dano and Hamill will have to go again. Greg Hancock and Ryan Sullivan will march on from this Heat 13.
Oh, what a fantastic race there. Greg Hancock makes a perfect start in the white. He's out of the picture. You can see his back wheel accelerating away. That on the inside is Stefan Dano. Stefan's made a good first turn. There's Ryan Sullivan on the SVR dirt track team machine. And he rode very, very well, Ryan, because at one point he was actually second. He went back to last place and then he finished up in second. So he had a great ride in there, and Stefan Dano was mixing it as well. So the two boys that had the very, very bad crash seem to be showing no after effects of that. There's Ryan Sullivan tucking in for second place. Billy Hamill at the back, very uncharacteristic for him. Now this is the last turn. Stefan Dano's trying everything, so much grip over the line, shunting into the side of Ryan Sullivan, but Ryan did it just enough to stay ahead, and there's Ryan Sullivan coming from last position right up to second. He gets the wheels in line so early. He gets a great run down that back straight, so much speed. He's riding down the inside of the straight where there's a lot of dirt down there, but when he gets to the turn, he has to turn very sharp.
Well, the action is tending to build up here. It really is moving with a vengeance. And Chris Louis there we see going out. He'll be wearing the yellow helmet colours in this one. The man, there's world champion Tony Ricardson on the inside in red there. The man in white already up at tapes. That is Michael Carlson. And certainly there's going to be another battle here. Each and every heat now, Peter, seems to be really something pretty special. There's a problem there for Tony Ricardson, signalling towards the pits now. He has machine problems. I wonder how much is it due to the intense heat here tonight?
Whoa, I couldn't say about that. I mean, Tony's been going so well of late. I mean, he's been breaking track records all over the show. He got 17 at Bellevue only 2 weeks ago. And he is the man on form right now. In Sweden, he's been knocking at least a second off track records over there, and he's come good just at the right time. But it looks as though it's just a clutch problem here. He's tightening the springs on the clutch, nothing serious. He wants to make sure he's got enough pressure on those clutch plates when he drops that clutch on that inside start position, because it's so critical that he makes a good start from there, because we've seen what happened to Thomas Golob.
Well, there in the yellow helmet colours, Chris Louis goes from the outside. On the inside, it's Tony Ricardson in red, the world champion. Joe Screen, Britain's hope, goes from gate 2 in blue, his first ride of the night. On Michael Carlson, gate 3, Chris Louis on the outside, away they go. Picking it up is Ricardson out front. Going very, very wide is Chris Louis, and then diving through the inside. And again, the competition in second, third and fourth places is intense behind Tony Ricardson out front. Ricardson picks up the line, but look at this right now from Joe Screen going round the outside. And Screen is going to catch Tony Ricardson down that back straight. What a battle here.
Yeah, Joe's riding the line that he likes best, the outside run. There's some grip out here wide, but they're all using it except Ricardson. Ricardson got a good line round that bottom turn there, got a slight advantage. Screeny realises now that he's probably got to settle for second place, which probably wouldn't be a bad thing at this moment.
With just over a lap to go, Tony Ricardson now has opened up that gap. He's picked his own racing line. He knows where he's going as we go into the last lap with Joe Screen in second place. If he holds it here, the Brit will march on. Back in third place is Michael Carlson. Another disappointment for Chris Louis. He's going to have to come back again, but he's done it before tonight. Ricardson wins it in red ahead of the man in blue there in second place, Joe Screen. Disappointment for Chris Louis, but certainly, well, there, Tony Ricardson shows the class, and Michael Carlson, the man getting third place there in the white helmet colours, ahead of Chris Louis. Carlson and Louis will have to battle again, but Tony Ricardson and Joe Screen march on. The world champion there in red from the gate made it all the way in that heat to take himself on. And really, there's plenty more action coming. 10 more heats of frenetic speedway here at the Brandon Stadium in this, the British.
Sunday at 9 on Sky One.
Isn't that just lovely?
Live through the many ups
Yes!
and downs.
Woo! I am over you. Give me the phone, give me the phone, give me the phone, give me the phone!
Ross and Rachel's path to becoming best friends.
Whoa, Ross's hands are on my butt.
2 specially selected episodes.
You were worth the wait.
Don't miss a special Hour of Friends, Sunday at 9 on Sky 1.
Get out of the car. Put them on. We're running this marathon together. Father and son.
Dad, it's Sunday.
The Peugeot 306. It's a family thing. The Peugeot 306 Meridian from 11,995 pounds with air conditioning and 0% finance.
Welcome back to a balmy evening at Brandon in Coventry. It's the British Grand Prix, and we're well into it. These are the scenes from the pits, and we're here just above that, only about 15 yards away. We can hear the bikes revving up, can't we, Sam? That's a great place to be for a Grand Prix.
That's perfect. We got the best seat in the house, I think.
No question about it. Great to see Joe Screen riding well. Interesting, the line he chose very much on the outside. Ricardson very much on the inside.
I mean, Tony knew exactly what he had to do, and I tell you, this track, I mean, Ryan rode the best line in the race before that when he passed Stefan Daniel. Stefan Daniel chose to stay on the outside, and I think Tony's seen that, and he just stuck right on the inside. Joe had everything to go for. He had to make sure he got that second spot, and he had Michael Carlson, which is an outside rider, so they both, you know, race chasing the same line. So, I mean, Joe had only one place to go, and that's where he feels comfortable.
Tough question, Sam, but at this stage in the Grand Prix, who's looking good, who's looking hot, who's looking to make that A final?
You know, the sneaky guy that always seems to do well and has made, I think, almost every final so far is Jimmy Nielsen. He's doing, he's just snuck in there and won the first one. I think the other guys, nobody's really paid attention to Jimmy at this stage because all the excitement's been afterwards. But in his first race off the inside, he looked so smooth and dominating.
Like I tell you, Jimmy Nielsen was looking cool, calm and collected. You remember we saw him in the Elite League on Wednesday. He was on flying form and was ready at that point, so even 4 days ago.
He is the only rider to make all three finals, so A finals so far. So if he stays in contention and Golob has the bad meeting, he's got everything to win here.
Yeah, Golob and Nielsen, it looks, will take it all the way to the wire in this championship. Let's go back to our commentary team as we start our next heat.
Remember, heats 15 and 16 are heats that see 2 more riders eliminated from each and 4 more go out as we build up to the climax of this British Grand Prix. We said earlier it's mighty hot, it's mighty humid, and the crowd here in their shirt sleeves are certainly enjoying it. They're battling in the pits, mechanics, team managers and riders alike all playing their part. In heat 15, of course, Chris Louis goes from the outside gate, and it's going to be tough for Chris Louis, who we see there looking down at his machinery. There is Chris Louis doing his own clutch repairs and really not relying on mechanics, PC. He wants it just his way.
Well, when it comes down to a clutch, that's a very personal part of the bike. That's your contact with your bike onto the track, and Chris knows that he wants it just how he wants it. You can't expect a mechanic to do that exactly how you want it, and he's in there. He's now doing the adjustment on the cable. He's just checking the clearance in that.
Well, the referee's put him on 2 minutes, so he's got to move towards the tapes here because there's going to be something wrong if he doesn't get there. And Chris Louis is taking all his time, and I'm worried for him that the referee will exclude him. We haven't seen the clock for the moment on this countdown, but the referee has put him on 2 minutes. The flashing light is going, and Chris Louis has an awful lot to do to get there still. I just wonder if he'll make it.
Well, it's a long way, isn't it, to the starting gate. They've got to run right round the outside of that runoff stock car area to get right round to that gate at the opposite end of the circuit. So it's a long, long way round, and he's having to really rush now. He's onto the bike. He's putting the cutout there onto his hand. That's his father, John, there with him.
Well, there's the countdown. There is the clock now from our referee. Brings him less than a minute to get on his way to tapes here at Coventry. He's got a fair way to go down this track. Right, the lineup is going to be tight here. Chris Louis has to go from the outside. That gate not going too well at the moment. On the inside will be Brian Carger. There is Louis making his way to tapes. In gate 2 will be Stefan Dano, who we thought perhaps might have been excluded for the contretemps with Ryan Sullivan in his first outing. The man in blue, Stefan Dano, coming up to tapes now to go alongside this man. We see Stefan Dano there in the background. Brian Carger trying to make tracks, Give yourself a little bit of extra grip. There is Dano going from gate 2, the Swede who currently lies 4th in the Grand Prix series. The man in white there is Lee Adams, the Australian. He's 11th at the moment with 25 Grand Prix points. And on the outside is Chris Louis. That's the lineup. Karga on the inside, Dano gate 2. Lee Adams goes from gate 3. Chris Louis from the outside. Louis needs to make the start here, Peter.
He does. He's got to make it because this is an elimination heat, and if he's not in the first 2, he'll be back to the pits, back to the showers and home in his van.
Starting Marshall moves away. The riders look across. Louis keeps it down, but he's trailing here. Will he come round? Oh, a lovely move by Chris Louis. He watched, he waited, and then he went, and he's done it well here behind Lee Adams. Chris Louis saw something we didn't on that first bend, took a totally different line, held back and cut through the inside. But now, look, he's been passed by Brian Karga, and now Louis got to do it all over again. He's got a race as the British captain here now. Out front in white is Lee Adams, ahead of the rider in red, Brian Karga. But look at the action here, and now Louis right at the back. What's gone wrong for the Brit?
Yeah, Chris did all the work on that first lap. He went up to second place, that qualifying position, but then he just doesn't seem quick enough. He's used that inside line again. We know he rides very, very good round the inside line. He's using it again, but when he gets to the straight, he just hasn't got the speed. But at least he's in pursuit now of Brian Karga, but he's got one more lap to do it, and it's looking slim for him right now.
Lee Adams looks back. Chris Louis will have to battle the action in second place. Chris Louis, can he come through? Is he going to do it? Yes, he's done it. Chris Louis, he could hardly have left it later behind Lee Adams in white. The crowd goes mad because Chris Louis, with just 10 metres to go, but every effort of strength, every effort of speed, and what a tremendous performance to stay in the event by Chris Louis there behind the race winner Lee Adams. He's blowing kisses, he's waving. What a tremendous performance. It's all happening here. It's a tremendous Grand Prix, but in our studio, one of the greatest speedway riders ever is with Jonathan Green. Hans Nielsen's there.
Great. Hans Nielsen is enjoying this, I'm sure. How do you enjoy that last heat?
Well, obviously, every time you go one further, you enjoy it, and that was good.
What about what you've been up to? We were watching, and it looked like you rolled off almost to try and get yourself onto that third gate for your heat coming up.
Well, I'm getting old. I have to sort of save my strength, you know, so I thought, you know, second would be good enough for me.
I wonder why it was Sam that spotted it.
Well, I think I seen it straight away because he kept running down the back straightaway, but he did it very convincingly as if he did have an engine failure. But
oh, you mean he's getting old too? Oh yeah, right, okay.
We're going there to the top, buddy. But no, it's really good tactics, Hans. I hope it pays off. I mean, that last race, Lee made a start off 3. We both were watching it. I told you from my league racing experience, it seems gate 3 will probably be better later on.
I think I've been talking to you before that race, wouldn't you? The way you talk. No, it's hard to tell. I mean, I think the starts are very even. Okay, 4 is probably not so good, but guys have been making it from gate 1, 2, or 3, so yeah, there's not a lot in it. Before, there was a lot of dirt on the outside, and you had a good run into the turn. Now they're going anywhere, inside, outside, wherever, so I really don't know whether it's not.
I was going to say, when you're watching this, I mean, it is confusing, because this track seems to have changed a lot in terms of where the lines are, or the best lines are. From what you're watching now, have you sort of changed your mind about how you're going to approach it?
Yeah, possibly. There's still a couple of races before I'm out, so I might approach it slightly different, but I'm obviously stuck in gate 3. I can't do anything about that now.
All right, we look forward to seeing you in action. Let's go back to our commentary team now.
Thanks, Hans.
Well, I can tell you as they approach the start, there are more machine problems for Billy Hamill, and they've worked this out, the Americans now, because they get the spare bike down there because now they're on shorter time than they ever were before, and they don't want to get caught with their pants down. And Billy Hamill now comes up on the outside gate in yellow and black. His spare bike has now been moved away. He had it there waiting just in case something went wrong. That you call professionalism. Some people might call it, Peter, distortion of the rules.
Well, I think those mechanics, they must have lost a lot of weight running back and forwards up this start and finish straight all evening with those bikes, Tony.
There's the lineup. Andy Smith on the inside from Britain. Michael Carlson, it is from Sweden, goes from gate 2. The brilliant Thomas Golov from gate 3. Former world champion Billy Hamill on his home league track goes from the outside. The riders look across. Up go the tapes. Golov gets a flyer, which he missed out last time. Holds it tight on the inside. Hamill will try to pick up pace from the back, but he's got a lot to do. It's Golov in the white helmet colours in front now of Michael Carlson in second place. Andy Smith has got to produce a real Houdini act to stay in this Grand Prix. He's back in third place, but out front, Thomas Golub, where he missed the gate last time, certainly made amends this time. And when he gets in this position, he really doesn't need to look back.
Yeah, this is the Thomas Golub that we know. He's flying. He's looking very, very quick in this race. It was a mistake he made in that earlier heat when he finished last, but now he's learnt the track. But the rider in blue, Michael Carlson's having a big go round the outside.
A lap and a half to go for Carlson to catch Golub. I wonder if Golub will look at tactics for his gate position next time out, like Hans Nielsen, but Carlson is going round the outside now. Golub is hunting at the inside. Battling at the back is Billy Hamill, who's through into third ahead of Andy Smith, but he's not going to make ground on the front too. But Carlson has gone by Golub. Golub is going to have second place, which means they go for the outside two gates next time out. In blue, Michael Carlson wins it. Golub in white is second. Third in yellow is Billy Hamill, who goes out disappointingly on his home league track from the Grand Prix, as does with him Andy Smith, who's won the title, the British title here 3 times on this track. So with Smith and Hamill going out, Michael Carlson and Thomas Golub marching on. It's really livening up here. There's the finishing order for heat number 16. And certainly, Peter, from that point of view, all sorts of things happened there. And what about, I wonder if Golub's was a tactical?
Well, Golub's the current leader, isn't he, in the World Championship? And he makes a start. Look at that. He's got a full bike length clear. He gets to the corner. Michael Carlson tucks in there behind him, round the first turn. Now, Golub looks in a commanding position right now, but what he actually did was he got a good lead and then he let that slip. And we can see the Jawa engine there pulling out of that bend. As he goes down the back straight, he does all the work on his own engines, all the tuning's done by himself. I personally don't know how he finds time to do that, but we can see he wasn't riding wide enough and he allowed Michael Carlson that massive gap around the outside in all that dirt where the grip is to sneak by and really threw that race away. And to be honest, if he's going to be in the run, he's got to start riding out wide where we know that he does like it. But Andy Smith there and Billy Hamill cruising round at the back, and they're also on the way home.
Well, it means that Billy Hamill has just 6 Grand Prix points, and really he's having a disappointing season. It is his best performance in a Grand Prix this campaign. Remember, he had that big crash at the end of last season, and previously 2, 3 and 3 points he's got out of the events, but 6 points his best performance so far. And now, well, he's got to go home and ponder upon the next one. We see here now the riders coming out for heat number 17, and the first 2 riders in this go through to the semi-finals, and there is Mark Laram on the inside. And for Mark Laram, well, we know that this is going to be a mighty important heat for him, and I just wonder how well he can do. It's going to be tough for all of them here now as it's getting tight, Peter.
Yeah, we got Joe Screen also and Mark Laram in this race, and we'll be shouting for both of those because they've both really had good rides tonight. They're both looking very, very good, and you know, we're trying to be patriotic here, and the English boys, we'll be shouting for them. But of course, we've got Jason Crump in there and Greg Hancock, who's been looking very quick.
Well, on the inside is Mark Laram, not perhaps the gate he might favour with his style of riding on this track. Greg Hancock going wide in gate 2. Of course, his home league track, he knows it like the back of his hand. Jason Crump, who won the British Grand Prix here last year, goes from the outside. And Joe Screen, of course, one of the best all-round riders in British motorcycle sport, he goes from the outside in yellow. That's the lineup. Remember, the first 2 riders go through to the semi-finals. The next 2, well, they have another chance. Mark Laram is left at the gate here, will have to do it. Cutting the corner short is Greg Hancock. Going round the outside is Jason Crump to pick up speed. The battle is joined because Laram is tied in second place, and this is going to be desperate stuff for the man at the back, Joe Screen, who has an awful lot to do. But look at Jason Crump, because he's putting pressure on round the outside as Hancock goes wide. Crump picks up the speed again. Laram comes through into third place and will now have to battle.
Yeah, the 2 racers are at the back, Screen and Laram. They're both struggling, but they're right in touch with Jason Crump. Jason's having to ride all over the track to maintain that lead, but Greg Hancock's out in front in the blue and looking strong.
Laram, though, is putting pressure on the man in white, Jason Crump. Hancock now seems to have got his act together. Hancock is going to look very difficult to beat here. Into second place goes Crump. Laram looks done for in this one. He'll have another chance to make it through to the semis, but he'll have to have another race before he does so. Laram in third place here now. Tailed off at the back now. Disappointment for Joe Screen. Time for Hancock to look back as he wins it in blue, ahead of Jason Crump in white. Coming through in third place in red there is Mark Laram. Tailed off at the rear is Joe Screen. Laram and Screen will have to go again. Greg Hancock has a word with Jason Crump. They finished in that order. Hancock and Crump march on to the semi-finals from Heat 17. Well, the action doesn't stop, and we've seen some tremendous racing so far, all the way for 4 laps here.
This is the start. There's Greg Hancock. Now, this is more like the Greg Hancock we know. He's made a perfect start. His hand there is just flicking that clutch, just feathering that clutch as he gets to the first turn. So focused on where the grip is round the inside. He turns very early, pins Mark Laram on the inside. That's Mark behind him in the red. Greg lifts his foot there over the curb as he enters the back straight. Now Jason Crump's come into the picture, very, very wide down that back straight, but he knows he's got 2 tigers on his tail because Joe Screen and Mark Laram are right in there, putting pressure on. Very, very close at this stage now. It looks as though Jason Crump has gone into the lead round the outside, but still on the inside, Greg Hancock is picking up all that grip from the inside, stops Jason Crump's run down the top straight there. When they get back to the pit turn, again, totally controlling the race there was Greg Hancock, and I'm sure he's very, very glad that he's just won that one.
Well, Heat 17, of course, one that sees 2 riders going straight through to the semi-finals. Heat 18 is one that does the same, with the riders now coming out for this number, heat number 18. The man in yellow and black there is Ron Sullivan, who took a bit of a buffeting first time out. In the white helmet colours is Hans Nielsen, of whom Jonathan spoke a few moments ago. The rider in blue is Tony Rickardsson, lifting there, the world champion. He will be going from gate 2 in this one. The man on the inside is Jimmy Nielsen, who has only had 1 race so far, as has Rickardsson, and certainly doing well in both of those. Jimmy Nielsen winning heat 12, Tony Rickardsson winning heat 14, and Hans Nielsen probably should have won heat 11, but wanted apparently to get gate number 3, and that's exactly what he's got. Ron Sullivan will go from the outside. There is Hans Nielsen making space, making the ideal start for him.
Yeah, that's Hans doing some gardening there. We know Hans always likes to spend a bit of time doing this. It's important that you get a nice rut, or the actual perfect position that you need, the ideal spot, because it's so critical to get out of that start. The back tyre's got to get all the grip to that first corner, and Hans is the master at it. We can see he was even off the bike there, kicking away at the bit of circuit that he wants, and that's the bit where all the grip is for him.
Well, there we see gate number 2, the best one so far, and that's where Tony Rickardsson's going from. The outside gate perhaps not going as well as we might have thought. 15 seconds to go now to get the riders into place. There is the new sign they have here in the Grand Prix, because riders were concerned that they were not getting enough warning that the referee might exclude them, and Tony Rickardsson struggling to get up the tapes here now, but they are all in line. This heat 17, heat 18, the first 2 go through to the semis. Away they go in line and picking it up. Rickardsson well held back at the tapes is Jimmy Nielsen. Nielsen on the inside going right. On the outside is Hans Nielsen, picking up the grip and being balked a little bit by Nielsen in second place. Ron Sullivan is at the back. Hans Nielsen, I don't think he's going quite where he wanted to, but he's picked it up now, and he's put the pressure on Nielsen round the outside. Hans Nielsen might have seen something here. Now he comes through, and he goes through the 2 like a meat in the sandwich into second place. A truly brilliant ride in second place by Hans Nielsen.
Well, it is a good ride, because we know Hans, you know, he's getting on a bit in age, and you've got to be brave to go for those manoeuvres, and he actually did that perfectly there. Now Ryan Sullivan's coming in the picture. Now Jimmy Nielsen's back there in 3rd place, but Tony Rickardsson's looking very good out front.
Rickardsson is, but a lovely manoeuvre by Hans Nielsen blocked the effort of Ron Sullivan to come up the inside. But as they go into the last lap, the pressure is now being put by Jimmy Nielsen in red on Hans Nielsen, who moves away down that back straight. And now at the back coming through is Ron Sullivan, but Hans Nielsen's going to hold this. The other 2 will have another go, but Hans Nielsen is through to the semi-finals behind Tony Rickardsson. And what a battle. In 3rd place came Jimmy Nielsen. At the back was Ron Sullivan in yellow and black. But we now know that 2 former world champions are certainly through to the semi-finals. And from their point of view, well, glory is about to beckon, and the action, as I said, continues to hot up here at the Brandon Stadium, Coventry. Tony Rickardsson ahead of Hans Nielsen, automatically through to the semi-finals. And well, we've had 18 heats, there are 6 more to go of fantastic action here at the British Grand Prix. Those follow after the break.
Full speed ahead. The football season begins again. Sunday, it's down to Wembley. The 1-1 FA Charity Shield. Arsenal v Manchester United.
Which way is this one going to go? It doesn't get any bigger than this.
Then,
hold on tight
as we head up to Scotland for the new season. A A football double, Sunday from 2, exclusively live, Sky Sports.
This is one ride you can't get off.
Every year, NatWest Insurance helps to protect nearly 2 million people so they can sleep more easily.
Welcome back to Coventry. The lights are on. We've got the cameras, and so far we've had some superb action from round 4 of the British Grand Prix. Speedway at its finest. Some of the world's best, including, with me, the 1993 world champion, of course, the 1997 world champion, Greg Hancock, through to the semi-finals. And you're riding outstandingly at the moment. Are you happy with the way things are going?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I feel like I've got a good combination working right now. We've had a couple of testing sessions here trying to get it right. And I really feel confident. I'm making good starts, so that's the key to success.
Me and Sam have been talking. It seems like a lot of riders are struggling with the line out there. How are you finding it?
Well, I think it's kind of deceiving too, because it's still a little bit dark out there and it looks like there's some good racing lines, but it's a little bit too far to go now unless you've got a really good setup going well. And as you saw, Michael Carlson made a good pass there, and Jason Crump was giving me quite a run in the last one.
What do you think? I mean, I watched you a couple times, and sharpness at the start is the key here. And you made a couple of blistering starts, and it was just, from the word go, it was like bulleting out into the corner. I mean, what's the gate positioning like now, and how important is that? In the semifinals, you guys flipped for it, so is it a bit of a lottery now, or?
It's a little bit of a lottery, but I know that I've got either gate 1 or 2 now coming into the semifinal, and I feel that 2 is probably more advantageous to myself. I made a good one last time out, and like you say, I'm trying to find something that's got a little bit of tackiness there to get that direct positive start. And I've had it sort of probably 3 out of 4 starts, and I feel good, but I'm not sure about gate 1. It's not a disadvantage, but I think 2 would be more my favorite.
Righto.
Briefly, Greg, how big is this night to you? We talked about what happened to Billy Hammond, and obviously your buddy's really disappointed, but what about you tonight?
This is make or break for me, you know. I mean, I'm still chasing rostrum position, and anything can happen in the world of Speedway. So on my home track, I know people are expecting a lot. I'm expecting a lot. I'm going for it.
All right, let's go back to our commentary team at Peter Collins and Tony Millard. Thanks, Greg.
Kick some butt.
Well, as we look now at Heat 19, the first 2 go to the semi-finals. The second 2 are eliminated. So this is a vital time. It's glory or bust in this one. And really the competition, because Mark Laram in the white helmet colours, the man in red there is Lee Adams, but the battle I'm looking forward to is Thomas Golob in gate 2 in blue there. And in the background is Mark Laram. And there will be no prisoners taken, I'm sure, in this one. Ron Sullivan goes from the outside in yellow and black.
Yeah, the track's drying out a little bit, Tony. It's quite, there's not such a lot of grip around the mid-track to the inside. As Greg Hancock was saying, there is a lot of dirt out wide, and we do know that Mark Laram and Thomas Golob do like to ride out wide. But Lee Adams is very fast from the start.
Well, we've got a problem here because Ron Sullivan hasn't made it. The 2-minute warning is on. There's a lot of frenetic action away to our right that you can't see in the pits as we're waiting for Ron Sullivan to come and complete the quartet here. And there we see him coming out. The Australian is going to have to rush a little bit if he's going to make the start here. And I'm sure that our referee, Mr. Istvan from Hungary, will have to be a little bit patient. But there is Ron Sullivan on his way and moving away because visors tend to steam up in this weather, and certainly Ron Sullivan getting down the track now. The other riders not too happy at being kept waiting. There's the lineup. Lee Adams, the Australian, goes from the inside. Thomas Golob, the flying pole from gate 2. Mark Laram goes from gate 3. And on the outside is Ron Sullivan in yellow and black. That's the lineup. This is heat number 19. This is going to be vital. Remember, it's glory if you finish the first 2. It's disappointment. You're eliminated. Finishing the last 2. Starting marshal moves away they go, and on the inside it's a great start by Lee Adams. Thomas Golub holds him tight, coming around the outside and picking it up. Mark Laram. Golub goes through now. Laram goes through behind him. Laram's chasing Golub now in second place with Adams relegated to third. The Brit is battling here. Lee Adams is, he's bolt Mark Laram. Laram's going to have to go the other way round as Adams comes wide. Laram now comes up the inside. Oh, there's a battle in second place, but pole position is being held by Thomas Golub out front. But Mark Laram there in the white helmet colours is not going to give up trying.
Yeah, if Mark can get a good run around the outside, we know he can do it, but that time he went too wide. He's been pushed off the racing line. Ryan Sullivan's now sniffing there for that third place.
Well, there's a lap and a quarter to go. Mark Laram is not done. He's now trying the inside. Inside Lee Adams, but he's got work to do here. Out front is Thomas Golub. Last-ditch attempt by Mark Laram to pick it up. In second place is Adams. There goes Laram down the back straight. Can he spring a last-minute one on Lee Adams here? He will come back up the inside on this one. He will try. He will do it. Oh, the referee's got to make the decision. That was really close on the line. I wouldn't want to be in the referee's shoes. I wonder if we can see a photo finish in that, because Thomas Golub undoubtedly won it. But the battle between Mark Laram in the white helmet colours and Lee Adams, well, they've given it to Lee Adams on the final captions there. But I think we must see the replay of this, because I'm sure that Mark Laram will think he almost got there. And it was desperately tight. How the referee can give it that quickly on the line, well, I really don't know. The replay from the start, well, the battle was joined, but the finish is where the action really is.
Tony, what a fantastic race, but you've really got to feel for Mark Laram. As far as trying was concerned there, he gave 200%. You can see there, he was right in the thick of things all the time. Thomas Golub didn't look particularly quick. He held the race up a little bit. You can see Thomas there, the way he just sneaked past the outside of Lee Adams. Now Thomas doesn't seem to pull away. There's all kinds of action going on behind him. Now that's Mark Laram there trying the big blast around the outside, down the bottom end. Mark again's on the outside. Lee Adams is on the inside. But you can see Thomas in the blue helmet. He's not pulling away. You can see Lee Adams is there. It looks as though Lee Adams is going to go by Thomas Golub. As they cross the line there, Mark gets pinned onto the inside, which is a bad place for him. And but what an effort from Mark. Full marks for trying.
Well, he tried all the way, but I'm sure we're going to have a chance to see the freeze frame. It was so near and yet so far for the Brit, who's battled all night. He's had some things to contend with here, but Lee Adams certainly in second place. And really, from this point of view, as we're moving on to the next heat, I wonder if we can have a look at the freeze frame. There is the freeze frame. Referee absolutely right. It was a matter of some 15 inches on the line, but Kelvin Tatum is among the action in the pits.
Okay, thanks, Tony, very much. Joining me now is Tony Rickards. Tony, you've really been looking like a world champion tonight.
Yeah, it's been going great. You know, it's hopefully I can have a trouble-free GP. I've been feeling great all year, and I think I've been at least as good as I was last year. You know, it's just things hasn't been going my way in the GPs, but I hope I can have a trouble-free tonight and hopefully pull off a win.
I think that you know, like, you've won 2 races really convincingly. Yeah, okay, sorry, we've got a break there, and well done. Hopefully we'll talk to you later on. Back to the commentary crew.
Kelvin Tatum rushing in the pits just like he has to on the racetrack, twice times world long track champion. But here the riders in the action for heat number 20, where again the first 2 go through to the semi-finals and the last 2 are eliminated. The rider in white there is Jimmy Nielsen, the current rider lying second in the World Championship Grand Prix behind Thomas Golub. Chris Louis, who provided some really frenetic action for us, goes in blue. He's from gate 2. On the inside in red is Michael Carlson. Jimmy Nielsen goes from gate 3, and Joe Screen, a British hope, on the outside. So 2 Brits in this against Carlson and Nielsen. It's going to be mighty tough for Chris Louis and Joe Screen, Peter.
Yeah, just notice Jimmy Nielsen, he's gone very, very close to the start marshal. He's very near to him, and he's possibly too close for that. The referee may not allow that, but he seems to be letting the tapes go.
He's letting go, but picking it up in blue is Chris Louis, and Louis is the man in charge here, and if he can do it, he will get through to the semi-finals. Remember, only 2 British riders have ever made a main final. Chris Louis is one of them. Can he do it again tonight? But at the back, backing up, is Michael Carlson up against the fence. So 1 has gone. Can 1 more go to allow the Brits to do it? Because Joe Screen is steaming round the outside. He's got to catch Jimmy Nielsen, who's in white, and he's trying desperately. But Chris Louis in control in the front. The battle in second place intense now as Joe Screen goes through, and Peter Collins alongside me goes wild. Joe Screen could get to the semis.
Joe used that little bit of grip down the bottom end there. Jimmy's struggling a bit in 3rd place. There's Michael Carlson. The Conrods come through the engine. There's Jimmy Nielsen having to go at Joe Screen. We've seen during the year a bit of friction between these two, but Jimmy looks as though he's not in the position now to get back at Joe. Joe's riding his heart out in this one.
The man who'll be delighted with this is Thomas Gollop, because Jimmy Nielsen won't get into the semi-finals if it stays like this, and Thomas Gollop will march on, but Jimmy Nielsen is out. And the Brits are through. 2 Brits are through to the semi-finals, because Chris Louis in blue ahead of Joe Screen in yellow and black finished ahead there of the disappointed and disappointing Jimmy Nielsen, who will lose ground on Thomas Gollop at the top. What a tremendous effort by the 2 Brits. The checkered flag goes to Chris Louis there, ahead of Joe Screen. Jimmy Nielsen tumbles out, but the 2 Brits go through to the semi-finals. It was a 4-lap battle of tremendous speedway, and the Union Jacks came out on top.
Well, that's what we want to see. What a brilliant ride there for the 2 Brits. Look at Chris Louis in the blue helmet. He makes a beautiful start there, right in the thick of things. Nobody really expected that, because Jimmy Nielsen is such a good gaiter. Jimmy was off gate 3, he didn't make it, he's in the thick of the action behind him, but Michael Carlson slots into second place here behind Chris Louis. But Chris has got his sort of tail up, he's going down there now, he's got so much speed, and Jimmy Nielsen now is going round the outside, but there, entering the bottom bend, Michael Carlson, some serious problems there with the bike. It was either a chain breaking, there's all sorts of sparks coming off that rear chain, or something very serious has gone in the engine. But this is where Jimmy Nielsen, on the outside of him, just avoids that accident there with the engine from Michael Carlson.
Well, disappointment there for Michael Carlson, but glory for the Brits in the white helmet colour there. Jimmy Nielsen overtaken by the rider in yellow and black, Joe Screen. From then on, it was Britain 1 and 2 with Chris Louis in blue and his teammate, or international teammate, Joe Screen in yellow and black. 2 Brits go through to the semi-finals. The action is thick and fast, but in our studio, Jonathan Green and Sam Ermolenko know all about it.
Yeah, Tony, I agree with you totally there. A massively significant heat, especially with Jimmy Nielsen not doing what he needs to do, because I was saying earlier how cool, calm and collected he was. I thought he'd go head-to-head with Gollop, but the 2 Brits have come through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we got a feel for Michael Carlson. Looking at the video shot there, it looked like maybe he broke a subframe or something, and he lost his chain and everything came apart on him. But it did open the doors for Joe to get in there and have a sneak on Jimmy. Jimmy probably thought he was comfortable after that, and Jimmy's an inside line rider, and Joe knows that. So Joe just, I think, was determined to keep going around him. And maybe caught him off guard, maybe not. I don't know. I think Jimmy tried to get back in there. Joe just stuck to his line.
Well, I loved it because, you know, Joe Screen, he really did shock him. It was a really quick move. He came right up there. And we only had to go back to our Elite League coverage. You were right in the thick of it. These guys have come together on a couple of occasions. They're not the best of friends.
No, that's right. I mean,
they?
there's a lot going out there. I mean, right now it's real important on who gets into that the semifinals for the finals. And Jimmy has everything to go for. And whether he was taking it easy or not, I don't know. But Joe definitely was hungry, and I don't think he had any hard feelings taking the line.
What about the style of Joe Screen? Because quite impressive tonight.
Well, I mean, this track probably isn't going to suit him later on. I mean, there's a bit there for him right now, but he's chasing the outside lines, and it's really difficult if there's not enough grip there, and if you get stuck out there and somebody sneaks underneath you. I mean, right now we got to look at probably, you know, Thomas Gollop. I mean, I'm surprised how quick he got his bike going on this kind of track. He's done well. They're watering the track a little bit, so maybe there'll be a little bit of dirt. Gollop's the kind of rider like that, so Screen, so maybe there's not going to be enough room for him out there.
We haven't mentioned too much about Chris Louis, the unassuming great champion of Britain. He's through, he's gone quietly through, and it's been somewhat of a big meeting for him, but he's right where he needs to be, and of course he's down in the pits with Kelvin Tatum.
Oh, thanks, Jonathan. I'm joined, as you say, with Chris. Chris, that was a superb last ride. You won that. Have you made any changes? Because earlier on it looked like you were struggling a little bit.
Yeah, early on I was riding a bike that I had faith in, and you know how it is, you want to keep riding it, keep making changes. In the end I decided I was struggling too much, so we changed bikes, and I was glad to go off something other than gate 4 in that one and actually made a start, and it was a bit easier, so I'm happy with this bike.
Yeah, well, that's super, and obviously your Grand Prix this year hasn't been so good, your performances haven't been so good, so you must be delighted that you're doing well at home in your home Grand Prix.
Yeah, I've never had a good English Grand Prix. I've always had mechanical problems, one thing or another going wrong, so fingers crossed we're getting set up a little bit better and better as we're going through tonight, and semi-final, hopefully I can make that final.
Sure, that's looking good. Well, good luck for the rest of the evening, and back to go back to the studio now.
Thanks, Kelvin. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Chris Louis, he is a quiet man, but I tell you what, inside his heart right now is burning a need, because we mentioned at the top of the program, he may not be up there trying to, you know, to win the whole championship, but he wants to be desperately in the Grand Prix next year. And, you know, if he wasn't going to do well here, there was a possibility he could be dropping down.
Well, I mean, everything's on the line right now. Those guys on the bottom, I mean, Chris isn't in the top of the standings, like he's not in the top 8, so everything's important. There's a couple other guys in the same position, you know, so to do it in front of his home crowd, he's got to be pretty pleased about it. I mean, to be able to have the courage to change a bike, get off a bad horse or a good horse, you know, I mean, what do you do? So he made the right decision, and it worked out for him.
A lot of good men have gone down today already. Let's take a look at who's been eliminated already, Sam. Andy Smith, a great valiant effort by him. He started so well. The big one, obviously, Billy Hamill. He, at 21st in the championship, desperately needed to turn it round. It wasn't to be. Michael Carlson out, and also Ryan Sullivan.
Yeah, I mean, Stefan Daniel had a chance of possibly squeezing in up there in the top and maybe getting a Rosson position, so it kind of was really, really bad for him.
In the end, though, the most significant in terms of the championship, Jimmy Nielsen, and a real shame for Mark Laram. Everybody wanted him to do well. He's been on such a high. He's already won a Grand Prix, but, you know, Jimmy Nielsen.
I bet you Jimmy right now is in the pits hoping that Golub makes a big mistake in the next one to keep a fighting chance, because if Golub makes this final now, pretty much I think the gods are on him, because he's at his home track now in Poland next, and man, it's going to be hard to beat the guy.
Well, through to the semi-finals already. Greg Hancock, Hans Nielsen, the old man has come through for Denmark. I was talking to the Danish TV guys, and they were saying that he was past it. Well, you can look at that semi-final lineup and know that he's not. Thomas Golub, well, yes, 23 riders, I think, want to make sure that he doesn't get any far, but Thomas Golub is riding superbly. Joe Screen's through, Rick Hudson through, as is Jason Crump, 2-time winner of the British Grand Prix, Chris Louis of Britain, and Lee Adams. Let's get down to our commentary team for the next heat.
Heat number 21 brings together some of the aces in World Speedway. There is Thomas Golub, who'll be going from gate 3 in white. He is a big threat. The man in yellow and black on the outside is Joe Screen, who produced the goods on the final lap of his semi-final. Hans Nielsen, the professor, the master of Speedway, goes from gate 1. Former world champion Greg Hancock on his home league track here at Coventry goes from gate 2. This is quite a lineup. Do you think, PC, that Golub in gate 3 is where he'd like to be?
I think that's possibly a good place for him to be, but I don't think he's quick tonight. He doesn't look very fast. In that last race, there were cracks there in as far as he was holding the race up. He won it, but he didn't look quick enough.
Well, there's no second chance in this one, because the first two go to the final. The next two have the consolation final. Golub is held back. Nielsen picks it up on the inside. Golub's back in third. Coming through in blue is Greg Hancock to pick it up. Golub is now last. They'll want to hold him there. There'll be 73 riders in the pits, hoping Golub can stay out there. In front now is Greg Hancock in blue. Second place is Hans Nielsen. Golub has got a lot to do in third place, because coming round the outside of him is Joe Screen. But this is something of a shock, PC.
Yeah, Golub struggling there in third place. He's having a real ding-dong with Joe Screen. He's got past Joe Screen, but I think Joe's got him back now. Hans Nielsen is their target, because they know they've got to get past Hans to get into the final. But of course, here we go. Joe Screen is having a go. Hans Nielsen's got a bit of a lead.
Golub locked up and been coming out of that bend. Golub has a lot to do to make the final tonight as they go into lap 3. In front is Greg Hancock, a former world champion. In second place is Hans Nielsen, 3 times a former world champion. In third place is Joe Screen, and Thomas Golub is going to go out. Thomas Golub is retiring at the top end, but a great ride by the rider in blue, Greg Hancock, ahead of Hans Nielsen. Both of those go through to the final. 2 former world champions. Joe Screen in yellow is in third place. Thomas Golub has packed up. He's getting booed by the crowd. I'm not quite sure about that. Something seriously wrong, he claims, mechanically, but I think he'd be desperately disappointed, because Thomas Golub finishing there will only get into the consolation final, and that means there is a chance for people to pick up points on him. And really, the riders making that final tonight, Hans Nielsen and Greg Hancock. Greg Hancock's currently 8th in the standings. Hans Nielsen down at 16th, and the gaps will start to close.
Yeah, we forgot all about Greg Hancock there. You can see Greg right in the middle of the pack there. He missed the start. Hans Nielsen's leading coming out of the first turn. But like I suspected, Thomas Golub just was not quick enough, because he didn't make that start. And there he is walking back to the pits. Very disappointed. Not going to be in that A final. Can that Grand Prix lead be slipping away from him? It definitely will. And is that world title still in his grasp?
Well, Greg Hancock, the winner, through to the final. Hans Nielsen, former world champion, through to the final. Joe Screen, assured of a place in the top 8, which means the main event next time out. Thomas Golub will be in the main event next time out. but dejected there now, the highest paid sportsman in Poland, because he will be desperately disappointed. He has made 2 of the 3A finals so far this season and has won 2 of them. Kelvin Tatum in the pits is with another disappointed man, Jimmy Nielsen.
Thanks, Tony. Joining me now, Jimmy. Your emotions must be going up and down like a yo-yo. You know, one minute you got knocked out, and then your main rival looks like he's happy, and then the next minute he's knocked out. You know, you must be relieved.
Yeah, it's a strange old feeling tonight. You know, people were going all over the place, and I couldn't get a right setup tonight. I tried everything, and just couldn't get work tonight. The bike wasn't working for me, and I'm out.
Yeah, but, you know, like, I know I spoke to you in the middle of the week, and you seemed really happy. You seemed to be very confident. Why do you think your bikes weren't working well tonight?
I don't know. I couldn't get it right. You know, I felt in the practice I wasn't happy after it, and I don't know. You get them days, you know, and how do you make it?
Okay. Well, thanks very much, Jimmy. Thanks for talking to us. Back to Tony and Peter in the commentary box.
Well, I wonder what next is going to happen among the surprises, the controversial incidents and the entertainment here for this big crowd in the Brandon Stadium. They've thoroughly enjoyed it, a tremendous speedway meeting here tonight. There in the yellow helmet colours is Lee Adams, the Australian. He's been consistent throughout tonight and certainly will be battling. On the inside is Tony Rickardson. Chris Louis goes from the outside in yellow and black. Lee Adams is in white, going from gate number 3. Chris Louis goes in yellow and black from the outside. And that, I just wonder whether it'll suit him or not. Tony Rickardson and Jason Crump inside them.
Yeah, Tony's the man on form, and there he is on the inside start position. Not favourable, but the way he's riding tonight, he's flying, and if anyone's going to make it from down there on the inside, it's Tony, and I've been very impressed with him tonight. Absolutely flying.
Away they go then. This is heat number 22, the semi-final. On the inside in red, Tony Rickardson, the world champion. Moving through in blue is Jason Crump, winner of this British Grand Prix last season. Chris Louis is back in third. Lee Adams tail off at the back. Louis, the British hope, will have to go well. I just wonder if we can get another Brit in the final. That would be absolutely marvellous. But Chris Louis is now going to have to work. Tony Rickardson out front. Louis is through into second place, ahead of Jason Crump. And now one of those two is not going to make the final, but out front Tony Rickardson certainly is.
Yeah, Chris Louis said he'd been doing some adjustments on his bike all evening. He seems to have been going better and better as the evening's progressed. Now he's got plenty of speed. He had enough speed there to overtake Jason Crump, and now he seems to be catching Tony Rickardson. So the way he's going, I'm very, very pleased about him, and another Brit flying the flag for us.
Well, Chris Louis, if it stays like this, will make the final. The fancied Jason Crump won't. And out front, certainly Tony Rickardson will, and the current world champion, third in the series so far, will be delighted with this as he takes the checkered flag in red. Joy 2 for Chris Louis in second place in yellow. In third place, Jason Crump in blue will have to be content with a place in the Consolation final. But look at the British fans. There is Chris Louis saluting them. Tony Rickardson in the background. Absolutely brilliant. Well, there's plenty more to come because the places will sort themselves out. We know now who's in the final because the first two in that one will be joining Greg Hancock and Hans Nielsen. And the action has not finished yet. There's more to come from the Brandon Stadium here at Coventry in this exciting British Grand Prix.
The Saturday premiere in association with Budweiser.
Everyone's blessed with one special thing.
Success.
I'm looking forward to seeing you in action.
And excess.
Wow.
Is the story of Dirk Diggler.
Here we go.
Some of the highs.
You're fired!
And the lows.
The story just sucks them in.
Starring Mark Wahlberg, Heather Graham, Julianne Moore and Burt Reynolds.
Cut!
In the first showing of Boogie Nights, tonight at 10 on Sky Premiere. The biggest films every Saturday night guaranteed.
4 centimeters. Believe me, it can make a lot of difference. With 4 centimeters extra lateral suspension track, for example, you get superb handling and impeccable road manners. So you see, with suspension geometry, as with so much in life, size matters.
It's what you do with it that counts.
One of the great wonders of the universe is that a BT local weekend call costs just 1p a minute. Just 1 penny. So why not give someone you love a ring?
Welcome back to Coventry. A superb night's action so far, and it continues as our weekend on two wheels gets better and better as we go down to Brands Hatch for round 9 of the World Superbikes. Carl Fogarty and the boys will be in action. It all starts at 11 a.m. I'm whisking myself down there as quickly as I can, but not until this is complete, the British Grand Prix of Speedway here in Coventry. And it's really looking to get to a heck of a final. Sam Ermolenko, we're really enjoying it. We've got the best seat in the house. We've said it already. We've also seen some great rides, and in terms of the permutations for the championship, it's a lot of significance here.
Well, I've been trying to work all the maths out here. I mean, that's another part we got to do. But, I mean, Golob, I mean, he's 65 points right now, and Jimmy not having any chance of making any points by getting in the Consolation or the final. Things are up and down. I think Tony Rickardson's probably in the driving seat of this one. If he can go out there and win that one, and Golob finishing low in the Consolation race, the championship's wide open.
Well, one man is doing great well. His course is Joe Screen of Britain. He's with Kelvin Tatum in the pits.
Thanks, Jonathan. A Consolation final for you tonight, Joe. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, really. You know, I've had gate 4, I think 3 times, and gate 4 is not a good one for me tonight. You know, I battled hard from behind. We made a few changes for the last 2 heats, and my bike was working better. So, you know, we made a mistake with the gearing we started on, and but you know, I'm happy enough in the Consolation. You know, I want to get an A final, desperate, and but you got to be pleased with this.
Yeah, well, you've certainly been entertaining us. You know, you've been diving inside and outside. You know, you've got gate 3 in the Consolation final. Do you think that's going to work well for you?
Well, it can't be worse than 4, you know. I'm sort of not making a good jump, and I was waiting for the riders to go in the corner before I made a move. And, you know, I had a good race with Jimmy there. You know, me and Jimmy hasn't met since that controversy, and it was a good. You know, I'm glad I got the better of him. But, you know, now I've got a better start now, so I'm hoping to make a good one. I think Thomas is on 1. I think he'll knock us on the dog track before the first. Before the second bend.
Anyway, thanks very much, Joe. Best of luck in the Consolation final. Back to you, Jonathan, I believe, and Sam in the studio.
That's right, Kelvin, it's us. And Joe Screen's got that big old British flag on his. Hopefully he'll be waving that to the crowd afterwards. I don't care whether he's aware of it, waving it or not, because we really want him to do well.
Yeah, now he's feeling pretty proud. I was just looking at it. You know, Joe's in 8th position at the moment. Well, actually, I should say that Joe's got to climb the ladder. He's 7th position overall in the Grand Prix right now. Greg Hancock is 8th, so Greg being in the final is going to pull him up. But both Chris Louie and Hans Nielsen, that are both in the final, are in 15th and 16th spots, so they need that final to keep in that top 8.
Yeah, at the beginning of this meeting, not so much Hans Nielsen because he's dropped out of the limelight, but certainly Chris Louie in this country desperately wanted to do well here, not only because he hasn't done well at British Grand Prix, but because of what we mentioned earlier, the fact that these guys are all trying desperately to get into the Grand Prix next year.
It's pretty important. It's only going to get tougher. The FIM does change the rules around a little bit, but I think this year they got it right for the challenge and stuff, and it's going to be a tough one for everybody. So it's important to stay in that top 8 if you got the chance.
Well, as you can see, Thomas Gollop getting ready for his consolation prize, really. But
it's actually not a consolation prize. It's actually real important.
Well, 15 points, yeah,
15
it could be.
points. I mean, he needs every point he can. You know, he can't sit back and wait for it. And you know, all the other guys know that they're probably all hoping that he doesn't really do very well. That's going to open up the championship. But he's riding really well this year, and I wish him all the luck.
Well, the bikes are headed out, and it is a significant heat for Thomas Gollop. He needs these points. He needs all 15. He wants to keep ahead in the championship. He will remain ahead after tonight, but Rickardson is hot. Let's go to our commentary team once again.
The mathematics as we look at Lee Adams in red there is if he gets 15 points here, Thomas Gollop would go to 80 Grand Prix points. If Tony Rickardson were to win the final, he would go to 66 points, and that would put 14 points in it. That's about as close as it can get. Already on 64 is Jimmy Nielsen. There is Thomas Gollop going from the outside. We've seen him in the league matches go from the outside. We know what he can do from that gate. He'll be diving for that bend, Peter, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Thomas will be a worried man right now. He can see some of that lead slipping away. He knows the best he can do is to win this B final, and if he's going to be world champion, possibly still won't be enough because he's got to be in there in the A finals regularly, and to me, he just doesn't look fast enough.
Well, remember the next round is at his home track in Bydgoszcz in Poland, and that will be a tremendous advantage to him before the series finishes at Wojens. But now we have this consolation final. They are racing for places 5 to 8 in the Grand Prix series, and that means they get 15, 14, 12 and 10 points respectively in the finishing order. That's Lee Adams, the Australian, in the red helmet colours. He goes from the inside. Next to him in blue is Jason Crump, surprisingly beaten. We thought he would make the A final. final here, having won the British Grand Prix last year. The rider in white is Joe Screen. We heard from him just a few moments ago talking to Kelvin. On the outside, the man who got the boos of the crowd when he retired in his semi-final, Thomas Golub. But I'm sure that he'll be going for those 15 points and retaining that lead. This is the lineup. The Consolation final it is. Places 5 to 8. Peter, it's going to be tough, this one, isn't it?
It is. There's Screeny on the gate 3 position, and he's probably a bit worried to have Thomas Golub right next to him as they enter that first turn.
The riders look down at the tapes. They try to creep. The man that creeps is Crump, but he gets in front. Golub now is stuck in 3rd place. Will try and come through the inside. The gate shut on him by Lee Adams. The Australians almost team riding at the back. Well, Golub has packed up again. I don't know what he's waving at the crowd. Thomas Golub is out of this one. Real disappointment for him, because it means that he'll only get 10 Grand Prix points from this, and it'll be even closer. This is brilliant for the rest of the Grand Prix field, but not brilliant for a very unhappy Thomas Golub you see in your picture there. But let's look back on the track here, because Jason Crump is marching ahead of Lee Adams, and he didn't like that. He's protesting to the referee. He's blocking the track. There's going to be controversy here. He's standing on the finishing line. He's moved his bike away. He's having a go at the referee. The action on the track is relatively unimportant, because Thomas Golub, as they go into the last lap, we didn't even see the starting marshal putting the flag out. I think he's almost lost count of the laps. He said he didn't see the lights. Thomas Golub is absolutely furious. I can't help thinking that was simply an excuse by him because he didn't make the start. Who knows? He kept going. He packed up. All sorts of things happening here. Thomas Golub is far from happy, but the action on the track sees Jason Crump, who's going to get the valuable 15 points here in the blue helmet colours. Second in red is Lee Adams. Taking the consolation place in white and valuable Grand Prix points is Joe Screen. But all of that has been overshadowed by the eclipse of this man, Thomas Golub. They are celebrating the Australians, but Thomas Golub is going to march. He's not allowed to do this. He's going to march onto the track, up to the referee's box. He's calling the referee down. It's a Hungarian referee. Well, the captions are up. Jason Crump, the winner, ahead of Lee Adams. But that man, Jason Crump, is allowed to talk on the phone to the referee. His entourage is going with him. Graham Reeve, the liaison officer from the ACU, is with him as well. And he's going all the way back now to speak on the pitch phone to our referee. But I wonder, Peter Collins, what will come of this?
Well, nothing, because basically I think it's something to do with the green light. Before the tapes actually go up, the green light comes on, 2 or 3 seconds, and then the tapes. I think Thomas is claiming he didn't see the lights come on, and that's his fault.
Thomas Golub's representative would like to speak to you, please.
Well, they've got his representative, all sorts of things happening here.
Yeah,
hello?
The referee.
Right, just speak to Thomas, please.
Yeah.
Excuse me, this is Thomas's manager. Listen, there was a red light coming on into turn 3. The yellow lights were flashing. The yellow light was on. That's why he shut off.
Thomas.
Yes?
The flashing red lamp didn't work. You couldn't see any red flags. The flashing red light didn't work.
Yeah, it was flashing all over the track.
It was for some seconds when the flashing yellow lamp worked.
Yeah, well, the yellow was on, that's what I'm saying.
Not the red light, and you couldn't see any red flags. Sorry.
No, the red light was on, it was flashing, the yellow light was flashing.
No, yellow, not the red, the yellow.
Yeah, the yellow light was flashing.
Yellow for some seconds without any flags and without voice. It wasn't stop the heat. Sorry. But if you want to protest,
could you talk to the clerk of the course, please?
If you want to protest, you can do it, Thomas.
Istvan?
Istvan? Yeah.
It's Graham Reeve. The yellow lights came on during the race.
Yeah.
That's why he stopped.
Yeah, I know it, but it was the yellow light and not the red light. There wasn't any red flags. But if the rider wanted to protest, he could do it.
Hang on, just a minute.
Sorry.
Hello?
If the right...
Istvan?
Yeah?
Ollie here.
Yeah?
What happened there with the yellow light?
I don't know exactly.
It didn't go out?
Sorry?
Did the yellow light come on?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll rerun the race.
Yeah?
We'll rerun the race. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
For me, yeah.
The situation there is that Ollie Olsen, who we see in your picture, the race director, has instructed the referee to rerun the race. Now, this is quite extraordinary because the referee must be the man who makes the adjudication. Grand Prix was the ACU official, the liaison man, but Ollie Olsen there is the race director, and he has instructed the Hungarian referee to rerun the race because the yellow light came on. That yellow light was actually the 2-minute warning light that hadn't in fact gone off, so I understand, and that now means that the referee has been instructed by the race director to run it, and that is something, Peter Collins, certainly usurping the referee's decision of power.
Yeah, that's a strange one, because the only reason that you should stop in a race is if the red light comes on. There was no red light. If there was a yellow light flashing, you know, you should really keep going. And Thomas was at the back at that stage. Why he didn't keep going, I don't know. A red light, yes, stop, but not a yellow light.
Well, that's quite extraordinary, and if you're going to have a referee at these meetings, he must have some power. I just wonder what Sam Ermolenko, as a former world champion himself and Grand Prix rider, thinks about this extraordinary situation, Sam.
Well, if you want my true feelings, guys, I mean, I almost would put my headphones down and walk out of here because, I mean, obviously there was a mistake. I've seen it. I was the one. I was on Thomas Golub's side that the yellow lights were on. But the referee made a decision, you know. He told the other riders, look, he told Thomas Golub, look, I'm not changing my mind. And he turns around and Ole Olsen has the power to change the meeting. That's probably the only thing I don't agree with.
But Sam, in these circumstances, who is in control of the meeting? Is it the Grand Prix race director or the referee?
You tell me. I mean, I wish I knew that, you know. I mean, I'm sitting on the sidelines out of the Grand Prix. I wish I was in there. I mean, I'm biased because I want to be a part of it, but the way that just happened, I mean, geez, my heart's broken for the sport if that can go on. And plus, we've seen it on TV, and that's not really good.
One of the guys who's see if we can hear what the ref's saying, but obviously Crump's right in there.
It stands the heat. We can't.
Here's
SU's decision is we leave the heat as it was. Okay, and we go the final. Okay.
We go the final.
Okay.
See, I mean, they just changed everything there. You know.
This is quite an extraordinary situation because Ollie Olsen, having told the referee that the race had to be rerun, has now told the referee we'll leave the heat as it is. Now, Jason Crump is among the riders there, of course, in whose interest it is for Thomas Golub not to get so many race points. So now rider power has taken over as well, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to feel for the 3 riders that were out there and completed the race, never stopped and raced for the whole 4 laps. Jason Crump won it, Lee Adams was second, Joe Screen was third, and basically I'm pretty sure that there's no way that they want to go out in another rerun to give Thomas Golub another chance, who was in last place, who stopped for a yellow light, and I think Ollie should not have tried to overrule the referee like that because he didn't take the other 3 riders' views into consideration. You cannot take the views of one man into consideration, and you know, this is a very strange one. This shouldn't really be happening, Tony.
Well, we've heard of authority overruling referees in other sports, and this really shouldn't happen. The referee had made the decision, and I think we can go back to our lads in the studio for more news.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, there's all sorts of atmosphere here. You can hear Jason Crump here sending the applause for the fact that this race is not going to be rerun, but you were the most vocal. You were in there. You made sure that you were going to get your point across, didn't you?
Well, definitely. I mean, it's you know, in Prague in the A final, I was impaired by a flare being let off on the first lap. That's never been known to the public, but I saw a red flare let off by the Polish supporters on the first turn.
Yeah.
I shut the gas off. Nothing happened. There was no red light. From me racing, I was in the race. I didn't see a red light anywhere.
Did you see the yellow light?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I
was racing, Sam. You know what it's like when you're racing. The guys have got to put a flag out in front of you before you stop.
Absolutely.
You know,
especially in a championship, you just don't give up until.
You're right. I mean,
sometimes it's hard to stop us, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, I'm a little bit disappointed with the way that was handled. I mean, there was no need for any of that to happen.
There was no question
the race
it was a yellow
was
light.
not stopped.
Yeah, there was no question it was a yellow light, but it's the fast that took place after that, and who's actually making the decisions, yeah?
Well, I mean, you know, Ollie's supposed to be the race director, and he's supposed to represent 24 riders. You know, Thomas is a great rider, but he can't expect things like this to happen in his favour all the time. You know, I think we've got to have a serious look at some of the things that have happened, and we've got to learn from it and become a bit more positive from it.
Well, thanks for talking to us. We've got to get back to the action. Of course, there's still a final to come. Jason Crump is at least a little bit happier now. But let's get down to the final with your commentary team once again. Peter Collins and Tony Millard.
Well, it really is extraordinary, but now here are the gladiators. Here are the lads that march out to contest the final. And we know that Tony Ricardson, the world champion, has choice of gates. Greg Hancock will have second choice, and I just wonder whether we could get a surprise win. I have to say that exactly what the lads were saying, Jason Crump was saying, what it has done is close the total down on Thomas Gollop to 75 points. He's now just 11 in front of Jimmy Nielsen, and really, well, if it goes the way, he will only be 9 in front of Tony Ricardson if he wins this. The decision may be right or wrong, Peter, but it's good for the World Championship.
Well, it is. I personally go along with the way the race stood. The race should stand. Like I say, Thomas was at the back, but now we're looking at the A final, and Hans Nielsen suddenly come good right before this final. Tony Rickardson's been riding brilliantly all night. Chris Louis, who's been improving all through the evening, and Greg Hancock, who started off a little bit shakily, has been flying. So I'm really excited about this. But Tony Rickardson there, he's looking for the gate position that's going to suit him in this final, and is looking as though Blue may be the favourite at the moment.
Well, Tony Ricardson there does have first choice. He is the current world champion. He's now going over to have a look at the inside gate. Quite clearly he's going to go for one of those two. The most successful gate tonight, as the figures show, is gate 2 there. 48% of the races have been won from that gate. But Tony Ricardson is taking his time. Thomas Gollop in the pits is licking his wounds. And I just wonder what the outcome of this is going to be. I've just got a feeling we haven't seen all the pages turned on this British Grand Prix yet. It's been a night.
It's exciting, Tony, that's for sure. We're having a great night.
Inside gate for Tony Ricardson. He will go in red. He took a long time to do it, but he knows now where he wants to go, and I just wonder what the next choice will be for Greg Hancock. He's going in blue, and he said earlier in that interview that that's exactly where he should go. When he spoke with our lads, Greg Hancock said gate 2's the one to go from, so he's got exactly where he wanted to. There we wait now for Chris Louis to make his choice, and certainly Hans Nielsen will have, well, they're in white now. We see that's Hans Nielsen going in yellow and Chris Louis in white. Hans Nielsen will go from the outside. Chris Louis will go from gate 3. Well, those certainly are significant choices, and I just wonder whether they've chosen right.
Well, I think Greg Hancock's absolutely made up to be on gate 2. That's the one that's been working all night, and he said already that that's the one he would like. He had second choice. Tony Rickardson had first choice and took gate 1. So Greg's going to take this chance now with both hands, and this could be just the thing that Greg needs to let him win this championship tonight.
Well, we await the action here. The starting marshal trying to get them to come together here. But really, Peter, what would you have chosen?
Well, I think possibly 2 is the one that's working. There does seem to be a lot of grip down there. There's a lot of loose dirt, a lot of grip on gate 2, and that's the one that's been happening. So I think I would have gone with that.
Well, certainly, Peter says he would have gone with the choice of gates. Sam Ermolenko, our former world champion, in the studio. Sam, would you have made the choices they have?
I think Greg's he's got a in his head, you know, I think he thinks 2 is the best start because he mentioned it earlier. To take a second choice after Tony coming off of 1, it's got to be the next best. Plus, it gives you a nice arc into the first corner. You can kind of watch what's going on and the guys on the outside of it. But what you don't want to happen is Tony make a good one. And Tony is making good starts, so you know, you could get pushed out, and the guy from gate 3, like Chris Louis did earlier, can sneak right up underneath you. So, I mean, Tony's either got to make a brilliant start and give Greg a chance on the inside of it, or Greg's just got to make the start. So, I think Tony was in the driving seat on that one. So I think gate 1 is the one I would have chose.
Sam, what about this as a Grand Prix? Because it's had lots of incident, lots of controversy, and lots of action. Have you seen a better one?
Well, I'm a rider, you know. I mean, I look at these things and I'm thinking, darn, you know, this is our sport and I love it. And some of the things that go on I don't approve of because I see it behind the scenes. But looking at it from a spectacle here, I'm jealous that I'm not a part of it. I think it's brilliant, you know. This has been great. And there's so many people here. Nice day. How much more do you want?
Well, you've seen the action behind the scenes, of course, with Mario Giroux out. We thought that Sam Ermolenko might be riding tonight and not with us. Well, I wonder what the action would have been like with him. The tapes are now down. We're coming to the final. This is going to be something pretty special. That man in yellow, Hans Nielsen, may be a veteran, but 3 times a world champion. In white, there is Chris Louis, Britain's hope. Wouldn't it be great if a Brit could win the British Grand Prix? There is Hans Nielsen, though, who'll be outside him in yellow and black. What are the chances, Peter, for Chris Louis?
Well, I think it may work to Chris's advantage with Hans being on the outside of him. You know, Chris has only got to just put this one start together now and he could become the champion. British Grand Prix champion, and I think that he's possibly able to do that. I think he can lift himself. We've seen him before. When it really counts, he can raise his racing, and I really wish he can. I hope he can, and I'll be cheering for him.
Well, a great racing prospect. 4 laps, remember, the final heat. This is the grand final of the British Grand Prix. We have in this event 3 former world champions, plus Britain's captain Chris Louis. They could hardly be better. The cream of the World Speedway riders, perhaps with the exception of Thomas Gollob. On his home track, Greg Hancock in gate 2 must have a great chance. Tony Ricardson, of course, experienced world champion. There's the lineup. Ricardson on the inside. Hancock goes from gate 2. Chris Louis, gate 3. Hans Nielsen goes from the outside in yellow and black. That's the lineup. 4 great riders. 4 great laps in prospect as the starting marshal moves away. Away we go. Norman Keatley's done a great job tonight, but they're picking it up this time. Look, going wide is Hans Nielsen, going a completely different route to everybody else and picking up the speed off the bend. But at the apex now and in charge is Tony Ricardson, but still Hans Nielsen goes round the outside. Coming through on the inside is Chris Louis. Louis up to second place. Nielsen's at the back. Ricardson in front. Extraordinary tactics at the back by Hans Nielsen.
Yes, Hans missed the start, he went very wide, but look there, Tony Ricardson, he's got a commanding lead, but Chris Louis all over him. Chris has got a good advantage now. They go down the back straight there. He's really chasing after Ricardson. Chris has got whatever he's doing, his bike's working really well. He seems to have Hancock now beaten.
A lap to go. Hancock beaten into 3rd place, Chris Louis in 2nd, but Ricardson probably now out of reach as they go into the final lap. Tony Ricardson, the world champion, will close ground to just 9 points on the championship leader, Thomas Gollob, if he wins this. And that opens the door for the world championship with the vengeance. Tony Ricardson takes the checkered flag and 25 Grand Prix points. Chris Louis for Britain in 2nd place. 3rd in blue, Greg Hancock, the American former world champion, on his home track. But a night of action, a night of controversy, a night of tremendous speedway has ended with that man there, Tony Ricardson, the current world champion, taking the checkered flag, mounting the rostrum later. A great ride for him, a great night one way and another, but what a ride by Chris Louis.
Oh, fantastic for Chris Louis. I'm sure he's real pleased with that 2nd place. See there, British fans cheering him round. What a ride for Chris, but the man on form, Tony Ricardson, brilliant. He's been going so well recently. Now I think he's the man to beat. He set his stall out now in this one. We can see the start, Hans Nielsen on the outside. Hans makes a good start, but Chris Louis next to him just isn't quite in there. But Tony Ricardson in the red helmet, so dominant on that first turn. There's no idea what's going on behind him. He's riding his own race, but Chris Louis chopped right back to the inside line. Chris is very good on that inside. He comes under Greg Hancock, the home man here. Greg must be a little bit disappointed that he couldn't capitalise on this home advantage, but at the moment now you can see Ricardson is leading the race. Hancock's tucked in right behind him, but what a ride from Ricardson. But Chris Louis is right down on that inside curve, all the grips on there. Tony Ricardson celebrating British GP win 1999, and is he going to be a major threat to this World Championship now this year?
Well, it certainly puts him just 9 points behind Thomas Gollob as he cheers this, but I can tell you the gaps are closing because Greg Hancock has moved on now to 49 points, and really, well, several can now put in a challenge with it closing up. And certainly that man there, Tony Ricardson, has made his mark. Thomas Gollob is still the leader, according to my reckoning. Tony Ricardson now in 2nd place and Jimmy Nielsen 3rd. 3 great riders there, but Tony Ricardson is certainly the man of the moment, and certainly Tony Ricardson, well, the lads in the studio watched it all. The night has come to an end. Tony Ricardson, the champion. What about it, lads? Greg Hancock